All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So, I want to talk about this Tucker Carlson interview today. I watched this entire thing from the beginning to the end, and I gotta just say, I was thoroughly surprised with the feedback that this interview received. I'm going to show you guys the comments right now so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. You can see here the first one says, supporting the killing of innocents is way worse than any words or series of words anyone could ever say. There's not a single war that the New York Times was against. We're not falling for the culture war anymore. Tucker is 100% right. We're focused on those who cripple us economically. That's all that matters. She has more concerns with Nick than Ted Cruz and Mike Huckabee. That shows her position. So anyways, to give you guys an abridged, very, very brief and titrated summary of this entire interview. She talks about various things: JD Vance, the interview with Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson basically defecting from the MAGA movement, apparently the role that Tucker Carlson is playing in riling up anti-Semitism. She is asking him all these questions and completely disregarding what's going on in Iran, what's going on in Gaza, refusing to engage with Tucker Carlson's criticisms of Israel, his criticisms of Netanyahu, his criticisms of the Republican Party, Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz. She's completely ignoring all that. And to be fair, I mean, these people have caused orders of magnitude more harm and destruction in the world than Nick Fuentes. And Tucker Carlson is just right about that. I mean, he's just objectively correct about that. Be that as it may, I must say, in spite of the fact that me and Tucker Carlson may agree on certain things, I am still skeptical of him. As a matter of fact, I do not trust him. I think he is being controlled by stronger forces, whether it is the Gulf states, whether it's Russia, whether it's the CIA, the intelligence agencies. I have no idea what's going on with Tucker, but he is not an organic, sincere, authentic individual. He is some kind of handler. I mean, I am convinced of that by this point. He says things that sound good to the media. He pretends to be some kind of devout Christian, and he pretends like he's some kind of everyman who lives in the countryside. I don't buy it. I see right through it. And maybe that's just the autist in me, but I don't find it to be at all convincing. I am not swayed by it, and I do not trust him, and I find him to be incredibly suspicious. He's not just like some base American nationalist, some Christian conservative populist. This is a guy who is engaging with much larger forces and much larger interests. The Rockbridge Network, Peter Thiel, 1783 Capital, or 1789 Capital, Omid Malik. He's engaged with Russia. He's engaged with the Qataris and the Emiratis and the intelligence agencies and Joe Kent. I mean, Tucker Carlson and even Peter Thiel, who's invested in Rockbridge Network with JD Vance and the political strategist who helped start Rockbridge Network, Chris Buskirk. Tucker Carlson is a part of much larger networks, and he speaks on their behalf. He just happens to present himself as if he is this like everyman, conservative, populist, Christian nationalist, whatever. And I don't buy it. I think he is a sinister figure, and he's very suspicious. And so, I might agree with him on certain things, but I'll never totally embrace Tucker Carlson, ever, no matter what. And to kind of give you guys an idea of how I feel, Mehdi Hassan, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his name, he put out a tweet yesterday, and this is what he said. He said, "Hey, at Cenk Uygur and other fellow anti-war leftists, I get the desire to ally with anti-war rightists in this moment, but this is one of the many, many reasons I still have issues with Carlson. He lies so easily and casually and demonstrably. It's a trust issue with him." I totally agree. I think this is on the money. And of course, Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian hop in the comment section and they start telling Mehdi Hassan that he's being hysterical and that he's totally imagining things. So, listen, I get it. You can't trust everybody that you try to build coalitions with in politics. You kind of have to bite the bullet sometimes. But there's sometimes when it's a bridge too far. And there's certain people who are just bad actors. And people you have to remain critical of, even if you do find some overlap with them, some common ground. Tucker Carlson is one of those people. He's just totally ominous. He's just totally ominous. That's my honest opinion of Tucker. Don't trust the guy. And you'll see as the interview progresses how dodgy he gets with a lot of the questions. When she starts asking him about J.D. Vance, when she starts asking him about Nick Fuentes and co-signing the beliefs of Nick Fuentes and signal boosting his beliefs. That's about an hour and 20 minutes into the interview. He starts to get very tense and pearl clutchy. And he does like this disingenuous fake laugh that's just really off-putting. So anyways, Tucker Carlson, not a guy that I feel confident at all in, but this interview is really good material, and it gives us a lot of insight into what he believes and how he came to the positions he has now. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
You spend a day with Trump and sort of like you're in this kind of dreamland. It's like smoking hash or something. It's interesting. Very interesting.
I'm Lily Garcia Navarro, and I'm in Maine to interview Tucker Carlson. For many years,
which I find crazy,
Carlson was one of President Trump's most vocal supporters.
I mean, I've always agreed with Trump's policies, always. And here I am with a full-throated, utterly sincere endorsement of Donald Trump.
But recently, Carlson has publicly broken with Trump. He's not only come out against Trump's decision to go to war with Iran.
This is the single most foolish thing any American president has ever done.
He now says he regrets supporting the president.
We'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be.
And has become a vocal and influential critic of the administration.
This whole thing is like dooming anyone connected to it for the foreseeable future, including the entire Republican Party.
This puts Carlson at the center of a major battle on the right over Israel, over foreign interventions, and over the post-Trump world itself. Here's my interview with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson.
Thanks for having me.
Very excited for you to be here.
Thank you.
In Maine, we should say. Any excuse to come to Maine is always a good reason.
Most people don't come to this part of Maine, so I'm grateful that you did.
All parts of Maine are good parts. I wanted to sit down with you for a number of reasons. You've been at the center of conservative media, obviously, for a very long time. By extension, it's politics. And I want to get your perspective on this moment, on your evolution, your worldview. You recently made quite a dramatic break with President Trump over the war in Iran, and so I'd love to hear about that. I want to start, though, in the lead up to the conflict. You said that you spoke...
Even his, body language, I know this might be a little bit too psychoanalytic, but, even his body language and his facial expressions, it's like he's anticipating an attack. He's anticipating and formulating how he's going to respond. It's like he's preempting something. Just, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but it's just like if you look at his facial expressions and his body language, it's just strange.
To the president several times about the plan to attack Iran before it actually happened on February 28th. I'd love to hear a little bit about that. Was it just you and the president in those meetings? Can you just give me a sense of what was going on there?
Well, I've been speaking to him about Iran for 10 years.
Right.
Literally since 2016, maybe 15, because there was enormous pressure on him, as there has been on many presidents, to regime change Iran. And we know, based on our experience with a much smaller country, Iraq, that's a tall order, and it doesn't necessarily lead to a place you want to go, and it's not good for the United States. So anyway, and Trump knew that, and that was one of the main reasons, actually, that I supported him during my time at Fox News and campaigned for him. And so it was really central to my views of Trump's candidacy and presidency. And so when it became clear in June that we were starting down this road toward a regime change war with Iran, I was baffled. I was very upset, not because I have allegiance to Iran, but because I thought it would be terrible for the United States, as it has been. Worse even than I imagined. But I could see exactly where this was going, and he was under enormous pressure to do this, once again, as all presidents in my lifetime have been. So we talked a lot in June. He embarked on this effort to take out Iran's nuclear program, which was really just the opening salvo in a regime change effort.
The idea that Tucker Carlson was ever going to talk Trump out of going to war with Iran is just a totally laughable notion. I don't even know how I mean, I get it. He's popular. He's influential. He's a household conservative, a household name in conservative politics. But talking a sitting president out of going to war with another country, it's just a podcaster. I mean, give me a break.
He knew that. I told him that. Charlie Kirk told him that. We did it. We got out. And then it became clear this winter in January.
Charlie Kirk was going to support Trump's decision no matter what. It just, come on, oh my God, the way these people retcon history is just crazy to me. It's like you're being perpetually gaslit. Like, Charlie Kirk was breaking with Israel. Charlie Kirk secretly despised Trump. Charlie Kirk secretly was like, just stop. Like, it's just, I'm sorry. It's just like total nonsense. The way they try to rewrite everything to like fit this narrative about these people all being truth tellers. Just give me a fucking break.
Where we were moving.
Charlie Kirk was a mouthpiece for oil and tech and TPUSA investors on the Republican Party. That's all he was. He was nothing more than a mouthpiece for their interests. No organic or sincere positions from him at all. Just none whatsoever.
For this thing that we're in now. And I was just absolutely panicked about it.
Did he explain to you why he wanted to take the country into war? I mean, I'm just trying to understand the dynamics of that conversation. What was he
Well, there were
saying?
multiple conversations. I flew to Washington 3 times in the month before, 5 weeks, 6 weeks before, and met with him in the Oval Office alone, and people file in and out with the White House Chief of Staff, the Secretary of State, et cetera. Had lunch with him on one of those occasions, and then I spoke to him by phone many times on this topic, and he would begin almost every conversation with, do you want Iran to have a nuclear weapon? To which I said, well, I'm sort of opposed to nuclear weapons. I don't want nuclear weapons. I don't want Israel to have a nuclear weapon. I don't want anyone to have a nuclear weapon. It doesn't seem like a good thing. But that's not the question. The question is, what do you do about it? And that was kind of the end of the rationale for doing this. He never seemed enthusiastic about it, ever. And I would say, well, here are the potential effects of this. Obviously, the geography of Iran being the most important fact of Iran. Iran is not a military power, it's an economic power. That was obvious because it controls the greatest span of coastline along the Persian Gulf, which is the source of a fifth of the world's energy, et cetera, all well known now and well known to him then. And he, I think, perfectly understood the consequences. But
why was he taking your calls then? Because if he knew your position and he understood the perils, I mean, was he trying to convince you to back the war?
No. He made no effort to convince me at all, other than to say it's going to be all right. Everything's going to be okay. And I didn't feel that way. None of this, I should say, was about Trump or my relationship with Trump or my feelings about Trump or his hair color or anything like that. I just didn't want the United States to go to war with Iran. And my strong feeling by the end of those conversations, which was the last one was probably a week before the war began, was that he felt he had no choice and that he was resigned to it. He was unhappy about it. He didn't seem enthusiastic at all. There was no effort to say, once we do this, the United States will be at peace, we'll be safe, we'll be more prosperous. There was none of that. Zero.
I mean, you speak to many people in the administration, and I'm just trying to understand the fault lines over this. I mean, who was for the war? Who was against it while all this was being discussed?
I mean, I'm guessing to a certain extent. I do talk to a lot of people there still, but I don't work there, so
No,
I don't,
sure.
it's hard to really know. There are people with a long record of making bellicose noises about Iran. They still work there. So, specifically the Secretary of State / National Security Advisor has, said for many, many years, Iran is the greatest threat we face, which is a ludicrous statement, but has
Talking
said
about Marco Rubio.
That'd be correct. But
like, why not just say his name? Like, why so cowardly? That's what I don't get. Like, oh, the sitting National Security Advisor and Secretary of State. Just say Marco Rubio. Like, oh my God, he's just so cowardly and dodgy. It's fucking pathetic. It's ridiculous. Like, everybody knows who you're talking about, but you won't just say his name. Oh my God. It's just so ridiculous. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, he's just so slimy. Everything about him is slimy.
that said, I didn't hear a single time from anyone, including from the Secretary of State himself, who I spoke to about this, any enthusiasm for doing this. My strong impression, and I could be wrong because I don't work there, is that no one in the building was pushing for this, at least overtly, that all the pressure was coming from outside. Constant calls from donors and people with influence over the president, well-known Rupert Murdoch, Mary Mandelson, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then a small constellation of, I guess they'd be called influencers, beginning with Mark Levin, but there were others, Sean Hannity, pushing the president to do this and telling him that you will be a figure out of history, you will save and redeem Israel or something. I think that was the case they were making. And I didn't hear of anybody making the case that this would be good for the United States. I don't think that was ever a conversation.
I mean, there's been a lot of
It's very revealing.
speculation about the president's mindset during this period.
Yes.
And part of it is, of course, about what happened after Venezuela and the successful, in their view, operation there, removing Maduro from office, and that he felt sort of emboldened by that, the success of that operation, and that he felt that this was going to be similar, that he underestimated the Iranians and what they might do in response to an attack.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I think the Venezuela operation allowed him to retreat into a kind of fantasy in which he told himself this is going to be easy. But I don't think he believed that. And I should say, having spoken to him a lot in this calendar year, I detected no evidence at all of dementia, mental decline. You hear people say, well, he's gone, soft. That was not my impression at all. Trump is not well informed on a lot of topics, for sure, is proudly ignorant on a lot of topics, but he has kind of remarkable powers of insight into people and power dynamics. Like, you don't get to be president by accident. The guy's smart in the ways that matter politically. And my strong read was that he was doing this against his will. Famously, the head of the Counterterrorism Center, one of the top intel officials in the country, Joe Kent, resigned shortly after the war began and said exactly the same thing. I think this decision is connected to a series of seemingly disconnected events, all of which revolve around violence, and we need to find out more about how this happened. And he was, of course, dismissed and threatened with an FBI investigation, and no one kind of followed up on that. And again, I don't know the answer, but this was not a normal decision-making process, and my strong impression was that Trump was more a hostage than a sovereign decision-maker in this.
So Trump was a hostage. Like, we're just going to totally like remove Trump of any culpability in this decision. Great. It's ridiculous.
Well, so tell me what you're getting at when you say the president of the United States, the most powerful country in the world, had no choice.
I don't know what I'm getting at. I'm just telling you what I observed. He seemed, and that's kind of the question. And what I'm really fascinated by is the lack of curiosity on display.
Tell us who. Then give us some insight. Who is doing this if it's not Trump? Who is doing it, Tucker? Who is doing this? This is what I don't get. It's the Zionists. It's Benjamin Netanyahu. It's AIPAC. It's the media. It's the business interests. It's the military-industrial complex. It's the deep state. It's the neocons. Like, it's everybody but the person who did the war. Like, MAGA did this war. MAGA supports this war. What don't you understand about this? This is very simple. MAGA did this. Trump did this. You can blame the neocons and the Jews and Israel. Trump did this war. Not Clinton, not Bush, not Obama, not Biden. None of them did this war. It was Donald J. Trump. And he has been bragging about it for 30 years. Or rather, he has been talking about wanting to do this for 30 years. Going all the way back to the 90s. Why are we still running cover for this guy? Why are we still shielding Trump from accountability? Trump did this war. What is so difficult for them to understand about this? This is Trump's war. Trump did this. And MAGA supports it. 80% of MAGA Republicans support this war. Okay? That's the truth. That's the facts. You can't blame everybody else but the person who did this. I'm sorry. It's just bullshit. It's total bullshit that we're still doing this, that we're still doing this fuckery. And that's why I don't take him serious. That's why I cannot trust this fucking guy. Because he's still, after all this time, he won't just say, Donald Trump did this war. He can't just come out and say it. It's ridiculous. It's just totally ridiculous.
Exactly this happened. What are the mechanisms by which a guy who's supposedly sovereign, in charge, granted this authority by voters, tens of millions of them, can't make a decision in the country's interest or even in his own interest? He knew, and I know he knew because I talked to him about it directly.
He wanted to do it.
That the consequences, potential consequences, were profound and profoundly bad. The end of his presidency, to start, which I think it has proven to be. He knew that. And he wasn't, this is my read, and I could be completely wrong. I don't know what's in his head, and I don't want to overstate my knowledge at all. But this is my strong perception.
Obviously, he didn't know it would be a disaster for the country. Obviously, he didn't know that. Obviously, and this is presupposing that he even cares about the country and not just himself, which is, that is a debatable proposition. But that's besides the point. The point is, God, I lost my fucking train of thought. He was about to say something.
He knew that. And he wasn't.
Oh, yeah. No, he obviously did think that this was going to be some huge victory for the country, for his ego. It was going to boost morale. They were going to be in and out. It was going to be a cakewalk. I mean, obviously he didn't think it was going to be this bad. And he's still gaslighting us about it. Because if he thought it was going to be so horrible, then he wouldn't have done it. Obviously, like, why is he trying to sane wash Trump? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
He had no choice. And he said to me, everything's going to be okay. Because I was getting overwrought. Don't do this. The people pushing you to do this hate you. They're your enemies. This will destroy you. This will gravely harm our country. We've got kids. I'm hoping for grandkids. Let's not go there. And he said, it's going to be all right. And he said, do you know how I know that? And I said, no. He said, because it always is. And I do think there's a kind of, Teddy Rooseveltian optimism there, but that's not really what it was. And this is my read. That was more a kind of justification from a man who feels he has no choice. And that is my strong view. And not just my strong view, the view of others who were around him and involved in this deliberation, to the extent it was a deliberation, which is not much.
Who are the other people around him who had that view?
I can't speak for the views of others, but I will just say once again that I never saw, nor did I hear about anybody who works for the Trump administration, anybody who was enthusiastically pushing this war on Trump, going in and being like, you know what? You want to be a truly great, you want to make this country great again? We need a regime change effort in Iran. And instead, there were a lot of cowardly people, as there always are, and Trump engenders cowardice in the people around him through intimidation. And there is a kind of quality that he has that's spellbinding, and I think it probably literally is a spell. And the fact
this is just bullshit. This is just superstition.
is to weaken people around him and make them more compliant and more confused. And I've experienced this myself.
He uses psychological and emotional manipulation on people. Wow, big fucking whoop. Why are we making Trump out to be like this larger than life, ephemeral? It's just ridiculous.
With Trump, and sort of like you're in this kind of dreamland. It's like smoking hash or something. It's interesting, very interesting. And there may be a supernatural component to it. I'm not a theologian,
Sure.
but it's real. And anyone who's been around him can tell you it's real. But whatever the cause, no one around him was weighing in strongly, as far as I know, on either side, for or against.
I'm sorry. I don't like to use people's psychological state as like a weapon against them or whatever, because I feel like that's a low blow, especially, even in politics, I think that's a low blow. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're insane. Oh, you're imagining things. Oh, there's something wrong with him. Oh, he is a demon. All these kinds of just gaslighting words. But there is something a bit hysterical about Tucker now that wasn't the case 10 or 15 years ago. Just stating the obvious. I'm not saying he's crazy, but he's a little bit more hysterical now.
But people from the outside were strongly weighing in, calling him constantly.
I'm going to give an alternative view on what may have happened.
Yes.
Which is...
And you may be right, by the way, because I don't want to overstate what I know.
Sure. I just want to due diligence. We've seen the president in his second term be much more interested in foreign policy, as many presidents are, much more open to taking action, not only in Venezuela, talking about Cuba, wanting the Nobel Peace Prize, weighing into situations in which he wasn't terribly interested in his first term.
For sure.
And so...
That's real.
Could that not be part of this?
It's a huge part of it. And there's no question about that. And all presidents decide at some point that they're not interested in running the United States because it's hard. And how do you fix Baltimore and Gary, Indiana? And what do you do about homelessness in Los Angeles? Like, these are hard questions. We can't even make Head Start work. Despite, many billions and a lot of...
There's no interest in that.
Well-meaning people spending their lives on it, can't make it work. So these are hard problems, and I think it's universal. It's a universal experience among American presidents, but also among U.S. senators to decide, like, I'd rather run the world because the details are opaque. I don't speak these languages. I can seem, well, first of all, it's a display of male power. Send the bombs in, kill the bad people. But moreover, you get to feel like I did something, and that's important. And I get it. And this is, again, as you wisely note, a process that all presidents tend to go through. And so Venezuela, Cuba, I object to both of those efforts very strongly, but neither one, in my view, risks the future of the United States in the way that the Iran war now does. And so it's a big deal. But because it is, by the way, a contiguous neighbor of Iraq, and because Trump spent years talking about what a terrible idea the Iraq invasion was, in fact, defined his candidacy in 2016 on that point, it's hard for me to believe that he just sort of organically reached this place at the end of February. He's like, I think it's a good idea. He did not think it was a good idea. Shutting down a fifth of the world's oil and gas?
Everything Tucker is saying right now is just objectively correct. I'm in total agreement.
Of all people, Trump knows that's bad.
You said he's a hostage just now.
I just wish he would stop giving so many outs to Trump. You need to put the nail in the fucking coffin. You need to destroy Trump. You need to destroy his legacy, destroy his image. Stop protecting him. He lost the plot. He did the Iran war. The one thing that you told him not to do. He said he wouldn't start a new war. He started a new war. The worst possible war as well. Maybe except with China or Russia, but you get the point. So put his ass in the coffin and don't ever let him escape accountability for this. And remind people every day, Trump did this war. I agree with what Tucker is saying, in total agreement with what Tucker is saying. I have been saying these things. But stop letting Trump off the hook. Jesus.
told the BBC he's a slave to foreign interests.
Correct.
So I just want to ask you to be sort of explicit. I mean, Trump is being held hostage by whom? Or by who?
Benjamin
or by
Netanyahu and by his many advocates in the United States. And we know that not simply because Trump started the war on February 28th, but because he couldn't get out of it. He declares we're having a ceasefire. This was 4 weeks in. He says we're having a ceasefire and we're having these talks and they're going great and we're going to open the strait. And Iran says, yeah, one of our conditions is Israel's got to pull back from southern Lebanon. You can't use the Iran war as a pretext for stealing more land from a sovereign country. That's not your country. Like, no. And it's not just Iran who felt that way. I think the rest of the world's like, what are you doing? I thought we were, fighting the great existential threat, Iran, and now you're taking the opportunity to take Lebanon shore the Litani River and bombing downtown Beirut. Like, what is this? Anyway, this was all very well known. And within hours of Trump announcing this, Israel publicly, in a way that was designed to get the attention of everyone, including the Iranians, starts killing civilians in Lebanon. Now, what was the point of that? Not to secure the Israeli homeland. The point of that was to end any talk of a negotiated settlement, to keep this going until Iran was destroyed and chaotic, which is the Israeli goal. I'm not attacking Israel by saying that. Their goals are different from ours. They're a different country.
Yeah, they would argue, of course, that what they are doing is neutralizing the threat that has been persistent in Lebanon through Hezbollah.
Oh, okay. But
that's just
they invaded
That's
Lebanon in 1982.
Level, yeah.
Okay. So that was 44 years ago. They've had a lot of experience in Lebanon. A lot. They've had a lot of time to fix Lebanon.
Neutralizing the threat, how? Did Hezbollah initiate the conflict? No. Israel initiated the conflict. Israel broke the ceasefire. Israel killed thousands of their civilians. They're the ones perpetuating this endless conflict with all their neighbors. They're the ones that are occupying their land. I mean, at some point, these people just need to be slapped. I mean, they just need to be straight up slapped in the face, slapped in the mouth for even saying stupid shit like this. It's ridiculous. My God.
They killed Nasrallah. They blew up Hezbollah with explosive pagers.
Violence.
They've done a lot since October 7th in Lebanon. They chose that moment to derail the negotiations. And they've done this repeatedly. And so my perspective as an American—
I don't mean that. Let's not hit people, but you guys get what I'm saying.
Is,
just ridiculous.
We're the United States. We're a country of 350 million people. You are wholly dependent on us. You're a country of 9 million people with no natural resources. I'm not against you, but we're not co-equals here. But the point I'm making is Trump could not restrain Netanyahu. Netanyahu is the one person Trump could not say, hey, settle down, or we'll just defund you and your country will collapse in about 10 minutes, which is true. Israel can't defend itself without the United States, despite whatever propaganda you may have heard. So again, it's not an attack on Israel. It's an attack on American leadership for not constraining its partner in a way that helps the United States. Trump said, I want a negotiated settlement. Israel stopped the settlement. Trump refused to even criticize Netanyahu in public. Are you joking? That's slavery. That is total control of one man by another. And it's, that's between Trump and Bibi and God, as far as I'm concerned. But as an American, that's our president, our elected president, whose job is to protect our country and our interests and our economy. And he is looking out for Israel first. That's outrageous. And no amount of you're an anti-Semite, which I'm not, and I'm never going to be, is going to stop me from noting that that's outrageous. It is outrageous.
Before we just move on, I am curious about this one point, which is obviously Israel has tried to exert its influence on a number of presidents. Many presidents have been asked to decapitate Iran, to do a joint military operation in the Middle East, which this is the first time really that this has happened, where the United States and Israel are doing a joint military operation against a Muslim country. And I'm just wondering why you think other presidents didn't have that influence, because they obviously were subjected to the same pressures, the same donors, the same
you
Bibi
should have
Netanyahu who's been there since the 90s. I mean, what do you think has materially changed that made Trump more susceptible to that influence?
I mean, that's kind of the question that I would like answered. And I don't know the answer, as noted. But, one argument could be, well, Trump is just uniquely weak. Okay. But that was not my perception. I think Trump obviously has weaknesses. And a lot of his posturing is compensatory, of course. I'm not interested in psychoanalyzing Trump, but that's just clear. But what was it about this moment that allowed a foreign leader to have this level of influence over an American leader? And I don't know the answer. But again, I think it's worth finding out. I would also note that, and this is not a defense of Trump, hardly, this is the single most foolish thing any American president has ever done, in my opinion. I say that with sadness. But many American presidents have put Israel's interests before our own. I would say the Iraq War was a very obvious example of that. I mean, Cheney's office was completely controlled, and I knew almost all of them by people who were putting Israel's interests above America's interests. So I think the Iraq War was, to a great extent, a product of that. And I believe that Trump felt exactly the same way because I talked to him about it a lot. So, like, what changed about Trump? What changed after 10 years, more than 10 years of telling us our leadership is weak, they act against our interests, they're stupid, they're foolish, they're bought off by foreign powers and by domestic donors. I mean, that was Trump's case. That was his whole pitch. That's why he got elected. To switch on something this big in the space of a few months, I mean, that bears some examination. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe he didn't switch.
I want to note in 2020 when President Trump killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, you went on your Fox show and said, and I'm going to quote here, there are a lot of awful, bad people in the world. You can't kill them all. It's not our job. And you asked, why are we jumping into another quagmire from which there is no obvious exit? But it wasn't until President...
I was not heralded for saying that. I don't think I've ever been more criticized. I just really quickly note...
Look at how...
I'm opposed not...
That was so freaky. I mean, look at how quickly he changes facial expressions. What the hell is going on with this guy? Just look at this.
But it wasn't until...
He's okay, just watch. And this is why I say, like, he's hysterical. Look at this.
From which there is no...
He's obviously intensely pondering what he's going to say. He's absorbing what the interviewer is asking him.
Obvious
making
exit.
direct eye contact.
But it wasn't until President...
I was not...
Now he starts this fake laugh.
Not heralded for saying that.
And look at this.
I don't think I've ever...
He's like laughing, and then watch how he just immediately changes his facial expression. Just watch.
Ever been more criticized.
And then he just immediately go like, what the fuck was that? Yes.
Really quickly note.
Very strange. I'm sorry. His mannerisms are just totally abnormal.
I'm opposed not simply to foreign interventions, as you said. I mean, most of them anyway.
Tuckerisms.
Those not undertaken in self-defense. I'm against the whole frame. I'm against the idea that Hezbollah and Hamas are at the center of our domestic conversation. Like, they're the big problems we face. They're not. Like, they're not a bigger problem than, like, the behavior of Citibank. I'm sorry. Credit card debt.
He's absolutely correct about this. And that's the thing, like he's just such a conspicuous individual, but he's correct. Like, I would lose my mind too if I was like, if I'd been advocating for certain things for 30, 40, 50 years, saying them on air, talking with politicians in DC, none of them take my considerations into account. None of them prioritize things that actually matter on the domestic level and continue to send our money overseas to fight wars that don't benefit us. Yeah, I would probably be pretty irritated about that too, in fairness.
That is a much bigger problem than Hezbollah will ever be. So stop with this. Stop with the brainwashing. This is bonkers. I live here. I'm almost 57. I've lived here a long time. Hamas and Hezbollah, while they're not getting my endorsement, are not relevant to the experience of most Americans. So, like, once you start thinking like that, you betrayed your country.
So it wasn't until President Trump threatened Iran's civilian infrastructure with a profane Truth Social post this past Easter Sunday that you actually started quite explicitly speaking out against him.
Yeah, you can't attack Jesus. How's that?
Well, in a monologue on your show, you said, how dare you speak that way on Easter morning to the country? Tell me what you were responding to right then, because it really is, I think, a seminal moment for you in terms of publicly breaking with the president?
So I will say, I don't do monologues. That's ad lib. So that's just, I didn't write it. I don't have notes. It's just like, that's how I feel. So it's probably not as coherent as it should be. But that was really just an emotional reaction to the experience of waking up on Easter Sunday, the holiest day on the Christian calendar, and a day of joy and hope, literally the resurrection of Jesus, and seeing Donald Trump using profanity, threatening to murder civilians. I mean, that's a crime. That's a moral crime. So to brag about that and then to mock Islam, I don't think you should mock people's faith. I don't care if it's Judaism or Christianity or Islam, but it's especially galling as a Christian I voted for Trump in 2024. And one of the main, and I never vote typically, but I voted for him this last election and campaigned for him in a bunch of cities with him because I felt that there was clear persecution of Christians in this country, people of faith. And it was demonstrable. And I felt that Trump, and I based this on his explicit promises, would be a protector of, never thought Trump was a Christian for a moment, but I thought that Trump, I took him at his word, would be a defender of faith, people of faith who need to be defended. And this country exists to defend them. It's in our charter. So anyway, I was just completely outraged by that.
Since that moment, you've gone even further. You recently said on your show that you'll be tormented for a long time by the fact that you played a role in getting Donald Trump elected. And you said, I'm sorry for misleading people. That's gotten a lot of attention, as I'm sure you know.
I don't know because I don't Google myself ever. But
I would like to understand exactly what you mean. Can you explain?
I'll tell you what I mean. I truly believe that the baseline requirement, the ticket of admission to the conversation, is admitting when you are wrong. And I spent 10 years defending Trump on Fox News. I'd probably do it again because on the issues I agree with him. I never defended a single thing I didn't believe. But at this point, the consequences of this decision are so bad for the United States and for my family and your family that, like, you just have to say it out loud. Like, I'm a small reason. I don't think I moved a lot of votes, but I tried to. I told people, this guy.
How exactly is this bad for Tucker's family? I mean, can you explain that? I mean, this guy is worth tens of millions of dollars. It's just so fake. I'm sorry. This is not bad for his family. This is not bad for his grandchildren. It might be bad for my family and my grandchildren, but not his. Get the fuck out of here.
Will keep us out of the next Iraq. Specifically, will keep us out of a regime change war with Iran. And here we are in the middle of a regime change war in Iran where hundreds of Americans have been wounded. Some number have been killed. They won't tell us. And that's just the opposite of what I said would happen. So I'm sorry.
So I hear you say that, but I am compelled to question it a little bit because are you simply just going public about something that you felt privately for some time? Because in 2021, through the Dominion lawsuit against Fox News, some of your texts went public.
Right. And
I'm just quoting from a couple of them. You know, you said, there really isn't an upside to Trump. You said, I hate him passionately. I mean, clearly you had some feelings of reservation about the president.
Without question.
Before this time.
There's no doubt.
So I'm just trying to understand the...
You know, I have a lot of thoughts and theories about things.
Like, he's just going to cut her off. This is what he does when he gets uncomfortable with a question. He just starts talking over you.
Which, you know, may or may not be rooted in reality.
So you're just not going to answer the question. I mean, she brought up text message receipts of you saying you hate Trump passionately, that there's no upside to him. And when confronted with the text messages, with the proof of what you said, you're going, well, I have a lot of theories and I just don't even know what I was talking about. And you could just be fucking slimy chameleon shapeshifter, this guy, man. Crazy. It's just crazy. I feel like just watching him, I feel like I'm being gaslit. So
I hesitate even to spring any of my theories on you because, like, they're probably insane.
Just tell us why you said it. We don't need a theory, Tucker. We don't need a theory. We don't need to understand the internal workings and the machinations of your cognitive processes. Just tell us why you said that. Why did you say that? Why did you feel that way? And why did you change your opinion? It is not a complicated question. Holy.
Me for many
This
years
fucking guy
is the fact that a lot of people in Trump's immediate orbit have been hurt and really hurt, gone to prison, become unemployable, publicly shamed, gotten cancer. And
How
I
is
just
any of this
am a
relevant to the
believer
question?
in like big picture assessments of things. And, so you're trying to think like, is Trump good or bad? Like he's saying things I really agree with, but then.
Like he's not answering the question directly. Like, well, she's saying things I disagree with, and it's these theories. I don't know if it's good or bad. And sometimes it's like, bro, like, that's why you can't trust him. No firm footing. He just says whatever. No conviction.
People around him are getting hurt. Is the country actually getting better? I don't know. It's hard to know because to some extent your vision is obscured by the intensity of some of these debates. Mine is easily obscured by that intensity. But did I have reservations about Trump? Of course. And, to some extent, I sublimated them or rationalized them away or focused on areas where I agreed with him. All my fault.
No. You can't, no. You went from saying there's no upside to him, I hate him passionately. Now it's, I'm rationalizing some of these things away. You made an emphatic, bold proclamation of the way you felt about another man, and now you're just going to change it and after a couple of thinking sessions. I mean, get the fuck out of here.
But I told myself, and I to some extent still believe, like it's the big decisions that matter. And I knew, because I know the Democratic leadership really well, that they're completely under the control of the same forces, and that we would get a regime change war inevitably in Iran if they were elected. And so I told myself, Trump is the way to avoid the really bad thing.
Come back to this moment for you, which is there's the political case against Trump that you make. But I do want to ask you about the moral case that you've been making as well. And that's a word that you've used. In that monologue responding to Trump's Easter post, you said that Trump's comments were evil. And I just want to understand that a little bit better. Do you think only his comments are evil, or does the evil extend to Trump himself?
Oh, yeah. Didn't he also call Trump evil, too, after the Dominion lawsuit? This guy is just a liar. I mean, fucking Christ. This guy is just a fucking liar. Goodness gracious. It's just like he just lies and lies and lies and lies. It's pathological with him. He's just a pathological liar. It's totally insane. It's almost psychopathic how he just lies so effortlessly. Holy. And it's like he forgets the things that he says. He just totally forgets the crazy shit he says about people. Oh, I didn't mean that. I just forgot that. Oh, I didn't say that. You come out and call somebody evil. You say you hate them. You say there's no upside to them. Oh, well, I just, it just happened to be just shut up. Just such a lying piece of shit. Oh my goodness. I can't stand this guy at all. He's just so spineless.
Is he evil?
I just want to be really clear that there's a lot of evil in me and in every person. So I just don't want to.
Okay, so now we're going to backpedal. We're going to do this Mott and Bailey thing. It's like the Mott is, oh yeah, he's so evil and horrible. And he's a terrible guy with no upside. Then you're going to retreat to the Bailey and say, well, everybody's evil and there's evil in me too. And, I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh my God. It's repulsive.
Certainly experienced it myself. Repulsive. And I've seen it in all people.
And we're all capable
of evil. So
we're all capable of evil.
I want to pull back on the judgment and be very precise about what I was
saying.
saying.
Now we're pulling back on the judgment. So we're just going to shit on Trump every week for a year or for several months, endlessly criticize him, treat him with disdain, go on 40-minute monologues about how horrible he is for the country. Then when pressed on it in a New York Times interview, well, I think it's time for me to, pull back on my judgment. It's just so hollow.
Which is, you cannot mock other people's gods and put yourself in their place, period. That is a deal killer for me. That's worse than the war with Iran, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I ask because, you've been talking on your show about whether Trump is the Antichrist.
I have not said that.
On your show, the day after Easter, you noted he did not put his hand on the Bible during his swearing-in ceremony as president. You said, and I'm quoting, maybe he didn't put his hand on the Bible because he affirmatively rejects what's inside that book. And then on a recent show, you went further saying, here's a leader who's mocking the gods of his ancestors, mocking the God of gods and exalting himself above them. Could this be the Antichrist?
I actually did not say could this be
the Antichrist. You did say that. Yeah, you did. Look at, it's just crazy. He's just going to lie to all of us. She has the quote right there. She read the whole quote.
Could this be the Antichrist?
I actually did not say could this be.
You did say that. No, that's exactly what you said. Verbatim. Word for word. Bar for bar. That is exactly what you said, Tucker. Those exact words. Oh my God. No, I actually didn't say that. Dude, you recorded yourself saying it. 2 million people watched it. It's insanity. Oh my goodness. How does he get away with it? I don't get it.
The Antichrist.
Here's a leader who's mocking the gods of his ancestors, mocking the God of gods, and exalting himself above them. Could this be the Antichrist?
Yeah. In 4K. Yeah. I don't know what else to say other than that he just got caught in a fucking lie, like red-handed. It's insanity.
Well, who knows?
You just can't let him continue to get away with all the lying he does. He just needs to be him, Shapiro, Trump, all these people need to be destroyed. At least with Shapiro has a backbone. Shapiro has beliefs, conviction, positions, principles. Tucker has none of these things. He's just a guy who likes to play around with different white grievance narratives and then play off of them to an audience with absolutely no political principles whatsoever, no real firm positions. It's just tiresome. You can't let people like this continue to get away with it.
I don't know where that comes from, but I know that those words never left my lips because I'm not sure.
You don't know where that comes from. That comes from your YouTube channel, your show. That comes straight from your mouth, your lips. Where else would it have come from? Oh my God.
I fully understand what the Antichrist is. If there's just one, I actually tried.
So we're going to accuse people of being the Antichrist. Is this person the Antichrist? Well, I don't even know what the Antichrist is. It's just like, once again, this Mott and Bailey.
To understand it. I may have said some are asking that. I'm not weighing in on that because I don't understand it. Just to be totally clear.
No, in Revelation.
You came out and said it. You said that. You came out and said it with confidence. With certainty. Could this be the Antichrist? He's exalting himself above other people's gods. I mean, you came out and made an emphatic statement. And now you don't want to stand by it when pressed on it in public. Just straight cowardice.
Obviously, the Antichrist is named in different
yeah,
ways.
And not just Revelation, but throughout the New Testament, there are references and in the prophets as well. So, but no, I'm not speculating about that. I know that people are.
You did speculate about it. That's exactly what you did.
Speculating about that. But I would say it's enough to acknowledge that Trump, like many leaders through history, is putting himself above God. But even on a more terrestrial level, like to send out a picture of yourself as Jesus has got to be a red line for Christians. How could it not be? It has to be. And I wish that Christians would speak up when he attacks Allah, when he mocks the faith of Muslims.
So to be clear, though, that was not what you were suggesting.
If I thought Trump was the Antichrist, I would just say so. If I understood what the Antichrist is, I would say so. And I don't really. I mean,
so why did you say it then? You said it for shock value. You said it to attack Trump's character for shock value, to get a clip. You did it to stir up hysteria. You did it to stir up controversy and reactions. That's why you said it. You knew you would get criticized and you knew you would get backlash for this, but you said it anyways. Intentionally. You don't just come out and call someone or even speculate that somebody is the Antichrist and not expect pushback on that. And not expect a reaction. Oh my God.
I guess literally it's...
Because you've been discussing it repeatedly on your show, so I'm just trying to understand why.
What I've tried to
what do you want your audience to sort of
I want my audience to see...
Look at he just continues to like cut her off. He's so scared of this question. You can tell this question's making him uncomfortable.
What's happening now in terms beyond just material. Obviously, the commodity flow through the...
You speculated on it as an attack against Trump's character. That's why you did it. You did it to appeal to the Christian base, the Christian evangelicals that are fanatic about Trump. So you speculated that he might be the Antichrist for attacking other people's religions. You did it to attack Trump's credibility, his character, his morals, his reputation, his image, and it backfired. It just straight up backfired. And now you're walking it back because you didn't get the reaction you wanted. It's just this guy.
Strait of Hormuz is, essential to the global economy. Got it. But I also think there is a world beyond our senses. Every culture and civilization has understood that from the beginning of time, and we're in this weird anomalous moment where we've been trained not to think that, but it's real. And this is a realization that's dawning on me. I mean, I wasn't thinking like this at all until several years ago. So I don't want to pretend that I'm a shaman or anything like that. I just want to make the point repeatedly, again and again and again, that there are unseen forces that act. There is a spiritual realm, and we are
She should have asked him to play the video. She should have said, "Can I play the video for you? Can I play you the clip?" It would have been interesting to see how Tucker reacted when seeing those words uttered from his own lips. It would have been priceless to see that in this interview, to catch that moment on camera.
Subject to those forces for good and bad. And I don't think that any person can deny that.
I just want to make the point that you did say, could this be the Antichrist? And then you said, well, who knows? You did use those words. So,
man, then my apologies to you if there's video of me saying that. I guess what I'm expressing to you is it doesn't reflect exactly how I feel. That suggests a precision that I haven't arrived at. Trump is the Antichrist. Well, you'd have to define, we're sort of quibbling here, but you'd have to define Antichrist, and I know that I can't define Antichrist, and it's not clearly defined.
So you use it as a buzzword.
So you're open to the possibility?
I think what we're seeing is evil. Like, are you allowed to kill people who've committed no crime? No. Super simple. You're not allowed to do that. Under no moral standard is that allowable. All of a sudden it's allowable. It's allowable in Gaza, and our leaders are like, yeah, no, it's just totally fine. It's not fine. But it's repugnant to the Christian understanding of the world and the human soul. Every person has a soul. That's the Christian view, and not just the Christian view, it's the Islamic view too. So, and it's my view.
Your Easter episode was titled in part a warning to Christians everywhere.
Yeah.
And sort of my interpretation was that you were warning other Christians sort of not to follow a false prophet.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm warning.
And that false prophet being President Trump in this case.
And Netanyahu. There are a lot of evangelical Christians who are convinced that God wants you to support Netanyahu, which I find incomprehensible.
Christian evangelicals in this country have been a hugely important part of President Trump's coalition. Many support Israel because they believe the creation of the state of Israel fulfills biblical prophecy. They're called Christian Zionists. I will note you have said you dislike Christian Zionists more than anybody. You've said they have a brain virus. You have apologized for those comments
repeatedly. Yeah, I shouldn't have said that.
Repeatedly. But would
at a certain point, like, and here's the truth of the matter is that what somebody says past a certain point just means nothing. Revealed preferences and patterns of behavior. At a certain point, people's words just become a way of obfuscating or shielding themselves or creating this image, this layer of fog that prevents you from discerning what it is they actually believe in. Revealed preferences and patterns of behavior give you far more accurate and reliable information than what people's words ever will. That's just the truth. Because people's opinions change, their words change, their thoughts change based on mood and feelings and propaganda and other people's input and fear and whatever. Revealed preferences, patterns of behavior. That is what you must discern in order to find out what someone truly believes. Someone,
would you like to see those Christians stop supporting?
It's like when Tucker Carlson comes out and says Christian Zionists have a brain virus and could Trump be the Antichrist? This is him revealing a genuine sentiment. And then when questioned about it in public, he tries to explain away what those things actually meant. You have revealed a preference. There is a pattern of behavior, a track record of things that you have said and defended publicly over several years, several months, and then when it becomes inconvenient or problematic for you to hold these positions publicly, when you're pressed about it, then you have to kind of rationalize it. I mean, this is real-time rationalization.
Supporting the state of Israel in the way that they do?
Of course, immediately. On many different grounds, but it's really simple. Christians can never support the murder of innocents, period.
I need to get coffee. I'll be right back.
That's just a bright red line. Find the place where Jesus is like, these people are annoying, kill them all. It's not there. So where are you getting this? Now, I'm, once again, hardly a theologian, but I just don't know. And I've asked many Christian Zionist leaders who will speak to me. Now it's just like, they won't talk to me, but I certainly asked Ted Cruz this. I asked Mike Huckabee this. I tried to ask Franklin Graham, but I sincerely want to know where this is coming from. It can't all be from the book of Esther.
Well, I mean, you did have exactly this contentious interview with Ambassador Huckabee. He's the ambassador to Israel, where you talked to him about Christian Zionism for quite some time. And in that interview, it's very interesting. I'm a former Israel-Palestine correspondent. You were pressing him on if the modern state of Israel as a homeland for the Jewish people today has legal or biblical legitimacy. You were sort of questioning him on this idea. And you went round and round on this for quite some time. And I was just wondering what you were trying to get at there.
I was trying to get at an answer, which I couldn't get, and instead was accused of hate for trying to evoke an answer to a very simple question. And the question was, on what basis are you making this claim? People whose ancestors didn't live here now occupy the land. That's very common in history, by the way. I'm not even objecting to it. What I'm objecting to is the claim that it's God's will and that Israel, because of this, has the unique right to exist. Okay, where does that right come from? Well, the right comes from the Bible. Okay, well, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I've certainly read it a lot. And I said to him, what are the borders? Because my read of Genesis is that it's a big hunk of land. That's the Middle East. Does Israel have a right, because you're referring to this text as the basis of the right, to have that land? And he said, fine with me. So like on many levels, theological and diplomatic, kind of a big thing to say. The White House was annoyed that he said it out loud. I was grateful that he did, because it's good to know what the terms are. And the second question I asked, which is, okay, if Israel has a right derived from this scene in Genesis, then to whom does it apply? Who are Abraham's heirs? And he said, well, the Jews. And I said, okay. And by the way, just to be clear, these are not conversations that I sought. I was never interested in this topic. Like, Israel's a country with borders and sovereignty and a seat at the UN. And it's a nation state like ours, like every country. The second you start telling me that as a Christian, I'm obligated to support the government of this country, then I have a right to ask you what you're talking about. It's that simple. So, okay, fine. I flew all the way to Israel, which I didn't want to do. And I asked him, what are you talking about? To whom does this right apply? And on what basis? Shut up, anti-Semite. Okay, now. So from my perspective, that was like the most revealing conversation I think I've ever had.
Why, though, were you so interested in those questions about...
Why? Because we're now in a war which is in the process of destroying the United States economy and getting Americans killed because Israel pushed the United States president, who caved. I'm not giving him a pass, but that's just a fact. That's what happened. I saw it. And Israel has that power in our Congress, not because we have so many Jews. I don't know how many Jews live in the United States, fewer than 10 million, I think, but because we have tens of millions of evangelical Christians who unquestioningly support Israel because they believe it's their theological duty to do so. So on this question hangs the future of the American economy and the lives of American service members. There's no more important question. And the effort to push me away from that question by calling me names, calling me a hater, saying I'm obsessed with Israel, okay, I would be grateful never to think about it again. I find Israel actually geostrategically irrelevant, except to the extent that we imbue it with relevance at the behest largely of evangelical Christians. So you can see there's a one-to-one correlation between these questions and the future of my country. Mike Huckabee and the people he represents have made it the nation's business, at which point it is entirely fair. In fact, it's a requirement of good citizenship to press him on what are you talking about? And he refused to answer those questions, at which point I say, as someone who's still committed to reason, you've been exposed as a fraud and or a liar.
I think one of the reasons why this was particularly notable for many people, that interaction that you had with Mike Huckabee, and the reason you in particular got so much pushback is because there is an enormous sensitivity around Israel being the homeland of the Jewish people and the attempt to delegitimize that.
I have enormous sensitivity about the United States being the homeland of my people and the burial place of my ancestors. I have enormous sensitivity about the future of the United States. Those are my concerns. I'm not dismissing the concerns of any other group, including Israelis or Iranians.
I'm sorry, the idea that somebody can just assert a homeland as theirs, kind of feel like that's a bit ridiculous. I mean, it's like different populations have lived there thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago. And then new populations came in, and 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 new ethnic groups formed, and new, like, this idea of like, oh, this is our exclusive homeland, and we can just declare it that, it's just stupid.
Or anybody else. Everybody has his or her own set of concerns, but my concerns revolve around my country. And so I'm not going to subordinate my concerns and the concerns of my children to other people's hysteria, no matter what country it is.
Why do you think you get tagged so often with anti-Semitism?
Because I think there are two reasons. One is I'm not an anti-Semite, and I think that's obvious. And I've expressed this many times, and I'll do so again. I have temperamental and religious objections to anti-Semitism or any hate or discrimination based on bloodline that is against Christian theology. It's against my personal ethics, and I oppose it no matter who is suffering from it, whether it's whites or blacks or Jews. Nobody can be punished for his bloodline, period. I don't believe in collective punishment, unlike the Israeli government. So that's number one. I am opposed to anti-Semitism, and that's a threat because I'm not approaching this as someone who wants to hurt Jews. I just don't want the United States to be implicated in the crimes of other nations, and I'm not intimidated. And number two, that is a much easier conversation than answering very simple questions like, where does the right to exist come from that Israel has, that I've been told for many years has a unique right globally to exist? Where does that right emanate from? Who granted that right and on what grounds? And they can't answer the questions, and they don't want to have the conversation. So just to be totally clear, asking questions is not hate. Telling the truth is not hate. And they don't want to answer the questions, and they don't want to tell the truth. And by the way, it's not just Jews. I think I've been attacked more viciously by Christian Zionists than I have by Jews, just in point of fact. It's a kind of nice universalism to it. But I'm not intimidated. I don't know why I would be. In fact, I think it's my obligation not to be intimidated.
Can asking questions, though, stir up hate? I mean, language is powerful.
Well, sure. I mean, you could pose attacks in the form of questions. I've certainly done that a lot, for sure. But the questions themselves hang in the air, and a legitimate question deserves an answer.
The reason I want to press on this a little bit more is that you know that there is an entire anti-Semitic worldview that has been based on the protocols of the elders of Zion, you know, that there is like this cabal of powerful Jews that controls the world. And, you know, that book was written in the early 20th century, but it, you know, helped the Nazis, and it really has informed a lot of the views of many people today that there is, you know, this very powerful sect of Jewish people who want global war and global conflict. And I think that there is a concern that I have, and a real concern. I don't mean this as something that people say to slander anyone, but just a real concern that the rhetoric where everything is blamed on Israel, where Israel has these supernatural powers almost to influence the president, to influence the previous president, George W. Bush, to enter into the Iraq War, to, you know, be involved in assassinations, et cetera, that it has echoes of that, and that people are genuinely concerned that it opens the door to this idea that has been debunked and has been used in, you know, absolutely vicious ways to annihilate an entire people.
I'm not quite sure what that means. Let me tell you my concerns. My main concern is the destruction of the United States. And that is in no way to minimize anyone else's concerns, but I have a right to that concern. And I will not have my own concerns hijacked. I will not submit to being told what my concerns should be. I'm an adult man who pays his taxes. I have a right to come up with my own hierarchy of concern. And at the very top is the destruction of my country, which I've lived in for 56 years. And I know that it's not better than it was, and it's not getting better than it was. And there are many reasons for that. One of them is this war, but there are many others. And so people say, well, I'm really concerned. Well, I'm really concerned too. I'm really concerned that the Prime Minister of Israel and his many cheerleaders in American media, including at the New York Times, if I can say, pushed the U.S. government into a war that hurts the United States. That's my concern. And I would say that's at least co-equal with anyone else's concerns.
No. Why is it they put... Yeah, I mean, of course they pushed us. They exerted influence, undeniably. And they should. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't Israel have every interest in pushing us into a war? This is self-evident. Of course they would want to push us into a war with Iran. Of course they would, because they benefit from us helping them. And that is common sense. Other nations have separate interests. Got it. But at the end of the day, Trump agreed to it. Trump did it. This is what I don't understand. Tucker Carlson gets all of it right, and then the key component he gets wrong. He gets it right about AIPAC. He gets it right about Zionism. He gets it right about Israel. He gets it right about Netanyahu. He gets it right about, you know, the way the government is essentially bought and paid for by this foreign entity. All that he gets right. And then the moment he gets to the point where he just needs to put the last nail in the coffin and say, and Trump did it. He just can't do it. He can't bring himself to do it. And it's like, at the end of the day, You can't be right if you're wrong. You have to be right to be right. You can't be right if you're wrong. If you're wrong, you're just wrong. And you can't be right. And at the end of the day, the right answer is that Trump did this. Bottom line. Bottom line. It's just like, bro, like, why can't you just come out and say it, man?
That's the first thing I would say. Second, as the elders of Zion or whatever, I don't know what that is. I've heard references to it. It's like a czarist forgery or something. Look,
I guess I'm just wondering what the line is for you.
The line for me is the truth. What is actually happening?
Between criticism. I mean, this is, by the way, a very difficult line. I am in no means
No, it's not.
Purporting to understand necessarily where it is. I'm curious for you where the line is between criticism of the state of Israel and how that could be perceived as feeding into anti-Semitism.
Well, it breaks my heart that it is perceived that way, and that's the product. That perception is the product of a decades-long effort to conflate anti-Semitism with any criticism of the secular government of Israel. Okay,
secular
so the
government. Okay.
IHRA definition of anti-Semitism lists 11 examples of anti-Semitism, and that's been adopted globally. 40 different governments have adopted it as their standard of what anti-Semitism is, and 2/3.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, Israel is a blood and soil Jewish nationalist state. I mean, that's what it is. Okay? Like, there's just no way around that. They are a blood and soil nationalist ethno-state. They're a demographic state, not a democratic state. And so, of course, when you criticize that and you criticize the fundamental ideology of an ethno-state, when you criticize the principles of an ethno-state, when you criticize Zionism and this blood and soil Jewish nationalism that was at the heart of Zionism and the way they affected it, and then you criticize the way that Jews en masse today defend this unethical ideology and the fruits of it, yeah, I mean, inevitably it's going to come across as anti-Semitic. Who cares? Fuck it. Who cares? Just keep reminding them this is about Zionism. This is about ethno-states. This is about the way they treat the minorities in that country. This is about the way they treat the Palestinians and the people in the West Bank. And if it comes across as anti-Semitic, big fucking whoop. Big fucking deal. It is what it is. Suck it. Suck it up. We reaffirm that we believe in the rights of all people in this nation. We believe in the dignity and the rights of all people in this nation, regardless of their ethnicity or religion. Very, very basic concept. They don't. Israel doesn't. We do, as Americans. Israelis don't. And so if the people over there doing this think that they have a special exemption from it because they're Jews, and we tell them you don't have a special exemption from it because you're a Jew, and they say, well, that makes you an anti-Semite, that's just bad faith gaslighting. That's what that is. And they're making the problem worse. Not us. We're in the right. So fuck them, is what I say.
Of the examples,
I would just dismiss that whole premise out. I would just reject that whole premise out of hand. Don't even engage with it. This is Brandolini's law. Brandolini's law is the amount of time and effort it takes to refute bullshit is orders of magnitude greater than the time required to produce bullshit. So to put it simply, lying is easier than refuting lies. So if somebody lies, as opposed to wasting time refuting it, you just dismiss it out of hand. You just dismiss it out of hand. You just reject it. Oh, that's just false. That's just made up. As opposed to addressing it. Just reject these false dichotomies. Otherwise, you get trapped in this weird framework where you're just like trying to parse it out and refute its internal logic when its internal logic is inherently contradictory. It's just like, no, just reject it.
Criticism of Israel. So, I don't get to write these standards. I also don't have to abide by them. And I reject.
Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. The fuck out of here.
as ludicrous, out of hand, the idea that the criticism of a secular government
It's a false dichotomy.
is the same
Just
as
reject
criticism of an entire ethnic group, many of whom do not support that secular government, many of whom reject that secular government, and a lot of those I know personally. So you're just not going to get me on board with the lie that criticism of Netanyahu is hatred of all Jews, because it's not. And I don't care how many times someone repeats that to me. I don't care. And by the way, I've lost friends over this, and I do grieve that. People who are totally convinced that
Is
criticism—
it just Bibi that you're against, or if there was a different government in Israel, it would be okay?
I'm against anything that hurts my country. Why wouldn't I be? I live here.
No, but I'm just curious, like if there's elections coming up and if Bibi gets kicked out, are you
I took my family on vacation there.
I'm just trying to
obviously,
understand.
I'm not against Israel. I never have been against. By the way, you can check the record. Before maybe 2.5 years ago, I don't think I ever— well, I certainly never criticized Israel, but I rarely even mentioned Israel. I could give you a long list of the things that I love about Israel, particularly about Jerusalem, which is one of my favorite cities. Jerusalem and Beirut, greatest cities in the world. It kills me to see them at the center of all of this. I think the second that we ban criticism of a foreign country, well, of course, we're not free at that point. We're slaves of that other country. You know, whatever you can't criticize is the force in charge. I don't think it's, by the way, good for global Jewry to have any of this at all. If you tell 350 million Americans that it's against the law, and it's very close to against the law at this point, it's against the law to criticize Israel, how does that help the perception? Does that feed anti-Semitism? I think it does. Not that it's my job to monitor or regulate this stuff, but I mean, just common sense would tell you that's not good. If you want to make the case on behalf of anything, any idea, including ones I disagree with, make your case. Tell me why it's a good idea. And we're falling out of that habit and instead trying to hurt people who disagree with us. And I just will always reject that. I guess I'm the liberal.
I would say it's not exactly against the law, but I understand your—
well, someone was just arrested. Because look, the
specific things that—
well, the second you say that
place.
Criticism is the same as a threat, or words are violence, then of course it's very easy to arrest people, as they are arrested in Great Britain. They've had hundreds of people arrested in Great Britain for criticizing Israel. I don't know why any liberal-minded, and I'm in that group, liberal-minded, you have a right to your views, I have a right to mine. I don't know why any liberal-minded person will go along with this and not say, whoa, 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 this is totally bonkers, and this is the road to totalitarianism. And I would say that about any topic.
I'm going to move on, because we've talked about some fissures that have emerged among conservatives over Israel and the war, right? You've talked
Fissures,
about—
yeah, it's sort of blown up.
Yeah. And I want to dig into that because earlier this year you told Megyn Kelly that there is, quote, a huge scramble, and you said, I'm in the middle of it to define what the Republican Party is after Trump.
Yep.
So boil down the scramble for me. Are there two sides?
Well, I lost that scramble.
Yeah. I mean, is it driven by ideas, personalities? I mean, something else? Like, what do you?
America first versus MAGA, I guess. That's the new thing. It's just going to be MAGA 2.0, but we'll see.
You see happening?
Look, I mean, there have been disagreements over foreign policy within the Republican Party for, well, really since 2015 when Trump announced for president. There was no disagreement at all. It was a neoconservative party completely. I was part of that for sure, and unthinkingly and then unwillingly, but whatever. But since 2015, there's been this kind of debate like, well, you know, what is the appropriate use of American power? And what is our relationship with Israel? And those have been sort of sotto voce debates. But it's only with this full regime change effort against Iran that they've become untenable. Like, you can't. I mean, my own view is I'm always happy to eat with and talk with people I disagree with. I guess I'm the liberal here. But there is a strong sense among the neocons who've completely taken over the Republican Party that anyone who disagrees cannot be allowed, like literally in the White House. Okay, I don't make these rules. I feel sad about it for a bunch of reasons. I would say as a political matter, the constituency for that is very small. There aren't, 150 million people in America who are really excited about the Iran war or who are ever going to be excited about that. So you're dooming your party to irrelevance when you do that. I don't know why they would want to. They hate Trump. The neocons hate Trump, have always hated Trump. I had a first row seat to this. And now they've destroyed him. And I told them that. I said, these are people who hated you from day one. They couldn't control you. They hated you for that reason. What you said about the Iraq War inflamed them. It humiliated them. And they want to destroy you. And this war will destroy you. I said that point blank right to him. And it's true. And it's, I think, proven true now.
And what do you mean about you being in the middle of it and losing the scramble?
Well, because Charlie Kirk and I think we're the only people, I'm confident in saying we're the only people in June of 2025 to say to the president, this is a very bad idea. The people pushing this are trying to get you involved in a regime change war. You've campaigned against that. Don't do this. And then on September 10th, Charlie was murdered by a lone gunman. So by the time this latest round happened in January and February, I think I was the only person who said that to Trump for a bunch of reasons. So now it's, we know who won by the effects. So this was, from my perspective, was a debate between people who thought it was wise to use American power in the way we're now using it and those who thought it was dangerous. And Trump did it, so obviously he rejected my view.
I want to stay, though, with how some of this is playing out, because, as you mentioned, you were very close to Charlie Kirk before he was killed. And he started Turning Point USA, which is this very influential group among young people on the right. And you're now seeing some on the right who are questioning whether Israel had a hand in Charlie Kirk's murder. And I should say the theories that Israel was linked to Charlie's death were denied by Israel. There's been no proof of that at all. And crucially, this theory has been condemned by Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow. Do you still have a relationship with Turning Point USA?
Well, I have always loved Erica Kirk. And I met her when she was dating Charlie and thought so much of her. I know a lot of people at Turning Point. I was the headliner for a bunch of different Turning Point events. I haven't been asked to do it this year. Don't know if I will be. Never said a word against Turning Point. I think it's been I was their headliner for a bunch of years, so obviously I supported it. I would hate to see it.
He's radioactive now. It should be pretty self-evident why he's not going to be at TPUSA. He knows this.
Hijacked by its donors to become an oracle of neoconservatism. I think it'd be pretty hard to do because its members are not for that. Young people are not for that. People of draft age are especially not for that.
I mean, when was the last time you spoke to Erica Kirk?
A couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
By text. So my concern, and this is not about Erica Kirk or Andrew Colvett or any of those people with whom I've never had a crossword and hope never to have a crossword. But my concern more broadly is about the investigation into Charlie's murder, which was short-circuited by the FBI. And I'd like to know why. And I don't care to be screamed at for asking that question. It's a legitimate question, and we know that. I know that for a bunch of reasons. But the public knows it because
just tell us.
Joe Kent said it out loud and explained it. He's the head of the National Counterterrorism Center. He's an ODNI. And he was told by the FBI that he could not investigate it. And as a friend of Charlie's,
my thing is I just don't understand what the point, unless there's some kind of strategy here. Like, what is the point of keeping the public in this perpetual state of frenzy? We're never going to get clarity on anything. Everybody's lying to you. The FBI is lying to you. The Republican Party is lying to you. This person's lying to you. Tell us what the lie is. Tell us why they're lying, and tell us what the truth is. How about that? It's just like they keep you in this endless state of confusion. You're caught in this endless haze. You don't know what's real and what's fake and what's left and what's right and what's up and what's down. He just said he knows for many reasons why there is something going on with the investigation into Charlie Kirk's murder. Tell us what you know. What about the case is being hidden from us? Explain that. Otherwise, you just need to shut up. You just need to shut the hell up and be quiet and stop misleading the public. I mean, I truly do despise these people. I'm really getting sick of them, all of them. whether it's Clayton Morris and his wife, Tucker Carlson, Stu Peters, I mean, all of these people, Alex Jones. There is this big, grand conspiracy. It's Anthony Fauci and the World Health Organization and the banks and the New World Order. It's all these people, but they can never tell us specifically what is happening. They can never tell us specifically what they're doing, what their plan is, why they want to do it, what the evidence is. They have they have nothing, absolutely nothing. Nothing except theories and hysteria and just made up shit with no evidence to back it up. I'm getting really sick of these people. I'm willing to believe that maybe there is something that's being hidden from us in regards to the Charlie Kirk case, but as of right now, we know Tyler Robinson was there on the roof. He's on camera. He shot him from 200 meters away, 100 meters away, whatever it was. That's what we know. And until you have some kind of alternative hypothesis with evidence that has veracity to it, you're not helping anything. You're just driving people mad on these, going down these rabbit holes that have no end. I just find it to be it's so destructive to constructive discourse. It's so destructive. Even if there is something there, you need to give us something. Otherwise, just be quiet. Just don't say anything.
And be intimidated into saying the following, which is, on what grounds would you do that? I'm not saying the guy who's been arrested didn't pull the trigger. There's been no trial.
He was obviously handed over by his father.
Do we know that? I don't know what I know because there hasn't been a trial yet. And again, it's like so many things. And it's not just Israel. It's not just Charlie Kirk. It's the existence of NATO or the way the economy is structured. Why is capital taxed at half the rate of labor? Like, that's a question that bothers me. In every case.
It's a good question.
Shut up. Socialist, racist, conspiracy theorist. It's like, I'm just too old for that. Why don't you answer the question? That's my job.
Do you think Turning Point's influence has waned since Charlie's death?
I haven't the faintest idea. I do think that, I agree.
I mean, if you're going to be a conspiracy theorist, you need evidence. The 9/11 stuff, that has evidence. The John F. Kennedy stuff, that has evidence. The MLK stuff, that has evidence. There is a mountain of evidence for all of there is a mountain of evidence to suggest an alternative hypothesis. There's motive, there's video, there's arrests, there's FBI documentation, there's photos. I mean, with all these other cases, we know that there is an alternative hypothesis and there is a motive for the people telling us what happened to lie to us. In the case of all these other things, you need evidence, Tucker, for the conspiracy. Otherwise, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. And you can't prove anything without evidence.
With most Americans, when I say I think this war is a disaster, it's impossible to see how it helps the United States. And, I would like to see all self-described conservative groups pressure the president, as Charlie did, to minimize the damage. And I hope Turning Point is working on that. I don't know the answer, but I certainly hope they are. So they should. I can't say confidently Charlie would be working to do that.
Obviously, Turning Point is just one organization trying to reach youth on the right, but you also have Nick Fuentes, the far-right white nationalist influencer who's called Hitler effing cool, who also has a huge following among young right-leaning men. How do you see Fuentes in terms of the future of the right?
It's so hard to know. I'll tell you my instinct on it.
What do you mean the future of the right? He's here. This is a stupid question. Well, it's not a stupid question, but it kind of misses the mark. What do you mean the future of the right? The rise of Nick Fuentes. He's here. He's the biggest streamer in the world, or he's the biggest political streamer in the world. Maybe with the exception of like Hassan Piker, definitely the biggest political streamer in America, alongside Hassan. So what do you mean? What is the future of the party? What is the future of the youth? What is the future of the right? I mean, and how it relates to Nick Fuentes. I mean, he's here. These other guys are done. Jordan B. Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, these people are done. Nobody takes these people seriously anymore. Nobody buys into their bullshit. The future of the right, really, it's going to be these economic populists, economic nationalists, Christian nationalists, versus like neo-reactionaries, white identitarians, racialists, and there's going to be kind of like a coalition between these different groups. Neo-conservatism, whatever the fuck that even means, and libertarians, these people are just along for the ride. They're not driving the car anymore. The people driving the car are people like Nick Fuentes. The people driving the car are people like Tucker Carlson. The people riding passenger, the people in the back seat, people like Ben Shapiro. He doesn't get it yet, but in terms of driving culture, in terms of driving the conversation, yeah, they're in the back seat. No questions about it. They're passengers. They're riding sidecar. The only thing is, they still have the institutional backing. They still have the money. They still have the donors. That's what makes it difficult, but even that is beginning to change. But this idea that like, well, what is the future of the right with Nick Fuentes? What are you even talking about? He's the most popular figure on the right in terms of numbers. He's the biggest guy. And people who watch him agree with the shit that he says. And 40%, I think, of GOP staffers are groypers or something like that. So it's just like, this is a silly question. It's here. And this kind of white identitarianism has always been the undergirding of the Republican Party. You just had the media and other institutional forces to restrain it. Now that that's gone, there is no filter.
Most of the debates about race, ethnicity, religion, to some extent immigration, are less resonant long-term than debates about economics. I think
that's just not true. That's just totally not true. That's just totally not true. The culture war has been driving the conversation in this country for the past 10 years. So many people are addicted to politics now, and they have all these talking points because of the culture war. Nobody studies economics. Nobody reads about economics. Nobody listens to economic theory. None of that shit matters. It is people's social concerns that drive their politics, and economics are really just a means to an end to justify their social concerns. Nobody cares about economics before they care about cultural or social issues. People care about cultural and social issues and use whatever economic model they prefer to advance whatever their interests are socially and culturally. So this idea that economics is going to be the most resonant thing long term, no, it's not. No, it's not. I don't buy this at all. I mean, people care about it, don't get me wrong. People care when gas is $6 a gallon. People care when they can't afford a house. But those aren't people's underlying primary concerns in the same way that culture and nation and identity is. It's just not.
Main frustration among young people is not just at the composition.
And I mean, this is evidence if you just go on Twitter or look at what right-wingers are saying in the media every single day. It's just, this is nonsense.
Country's changing too fast, which it definitely is. But
these people are not talking about, we need to implement a progressive tax on the top 1%. They're talking about immigrants. They're talking about the browning of America. They're talking about Jews and shit, and black crime. Like, give me a break. Those are the talking points that get people animated. No, we need to put a progressive tax. And it's just no.
Main concerns are about the lack of economic opportunity for American young people who are totally screwed at like a more profound level than people acknowledge. Older people do not acknowledge that. I had dinner the other night with a bunch of kids from Stanford, really smart. They're at Stanford. And one of them said, oh yeah, his best friend just graduated with a degree in computer science last year, has not been able to find a job. Stanford computer science can't find a job. So that's like a window into the total destruction of the economic opportunity for young people. And what looks to me as a non-economist, like the true hoarding of capital by a tiny group of people. It looks like a very lopsided and unfair economic system that is guaranteed to radicalize young people, and not just young people, but especially young people. And so I think most future conversations politically will be about economics. I do think that. I think we're at sort of the last stage. This is the last time the U.S. has ever been.
So you see that, what I'm trying to understand is you see that as Fuentes' power waning?
For sure. Well, I don't know Fuentes in particular.
Bullshit.
I mean, wasn't even aware of Fuentes. I mean, again, I'm just in a different world, right? Okay, so I read the New York Times or whatever. Like, I'm just older, okay? So I'm not an expert on Fuentes' reach or even what he's saying day to day. I really don't know. But he has been caricatured as a race guy, which he may be, by the way. It was like mad about the Jews or black people.
I mean, that's what he is. I don't know why. I don't know if he's being deliberately ignorant or if he's trying to run cover, but yeah, he's a race guy. You know he's a race guy. It's just like, why is he pretending?
People or whatever.
You know he's controversial for what he says about women and Jews and blacks and immigrants. That's why you brought him on to interview him. Because you know he's like this pariah.
But I'm just telling you, I think the future, the energy, not just on the right, but I think right and left agree on this, under 30, is that young people have been shafted by older people, particularly by the baby boomers, people born between 46 and 64. And I think they're right about that. I do think that's like the most selfish generation, most loathsome, mediocre generation this country ever produced. Not all of them, but in general, I would say their behavior has been shameful and selfish. And I hear young people talk not about, I'm mad at the Jews. I hear young people say things
you do
like,
hear him say that now.
Only baby boomers would like have a second home in Isle of Palms, South Carolina, but like not help.
Yeah, and they think that baby boomer with the second home in Iowa Palms or whatever place he's talking about is a Jewish billionaire who's fucking them out of a job. That's what they think. And banning them on social media. A lot of them feel that way.
Their kids buy homes. That's what I hear. I hear people who understand that their lives will bear no resemblance to the lives of their parents and grandparents, and they're really upset about it. Meanwhile, there are all these people making billions on clearly fraudulent enterprises, crypto-related enterprises, and other enterprises that are like not adding to the sum total of prosperity in this country and not making the country better. So that's where I think the radicalism is going to start. The murder of that healthcare executive in New York, the health insurer guy, I'm against all murder, just to be totally clear. But I was surprised but not really shocked by the reaction, the positive reaction. All these kind of normal-looking people on the internet are like, I'm glad they killed him. They don't even know his name. However, that reflects this revolutionary frustration. And I do think it's revolutionary. I think one of the reasons that Trump is apparently going to make weed legal is just so we can lower testosterone levels even more. Just make people more passive. Have some more benzos. Like, it's fine. It's totally fine. Because it's not fine is the truth. So again, long-winded answer to a short question, but the future that I...
So there's now he's introducing the idea that there's like this ulterior motive or conspiracy by Trump to like sedate the population by permitting the use of weed recreationally. I mean, this guy, man.
I imagine is not a future in which we're yelling at each other about race. It's a future in which people are legitimately revolutionary, maybe even violent on the basis of thwarted economic opportunity.
I mean, Fuentes wants America to be a white Christian nation, among other things.
Okay, well, he's very good at defending the New York Times, but I think the real issues are not about Fuentes or even about race. Immigration has a direct effect on economics. And so the overwhelming majority of newly created jobs in the past 5 years have gone to foreign-born. So like it's not an attack on the foreign-born to say that's not really the job of the U.S. government to provide economic opportunity to the world. The job is to protect its own people
I can tell you don't want to talk about Fuentes.
Well, I don't have what to say.
Okay,
I just think, okay, he said naughty things about this, that, or the other thing. Okay.
No, well, you caused a big. I'm focusing on you. This is an interview of you.
I didn't cause anything. People got hysterical. How can you talk to this man?
When
I talk to people.
Brought Fuentes onto your show.
I've interviewed Ted Cruz, who's calling for the murder of innocents. I don't think Fuentes is doing that.
But that conversation was pretty friendly.
People say that. I mean, whatever. Okay, I'm naughty for talking.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, why is he dodging? He's not taking accountability. And I get it. Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, orders of magnitude worse than Fuentes. I agree. And those people should be discussed in this interview, and the interviewer should spend more time criticizing or asking Tucker for his thoughts on those particular people. Got it. I agree. But that doesn't mean she can't question you about the future of the right and why you interviewed this person and what significance you think he has in politics and whether or not you align yourself with his views. I mean, those are legitimate questions. So it's just, I don't know.
If you Ted Cruz, who's calling for the murder of innocents, I don't think Fuentes is doing that.
But that conversation was pretty.
And even then, like, isn't he the one? Isn't Nick Fuentes the one who, like, I mean, he's called for the deportation of all Somalians, and when Alex Preddy and Renee Good were killed, he said, good riddance, they fucking deserve it. And he's made, he said things about, we will make certain people die in a holy war. I mean, yeah, maybe he's not explicitly calling for violence, but he's kind of motioning at it. He seems comfortable with it. He's revealed a preference or a kind of desensitization towards cruelty and violence, as long as it's directed at people he doesn't like. He's totally okay with it, obviously, if it means pursuing a white Christian nation, or in the name of defending a white Christian nation. So we don't have to, say Nick Fuentes is as bad or as destructive from a utilitarian perspective on the world as these other people, but like, we don't have to sane wash him either.
Fuentes, but
you've been doing this for decades. I mean, I have watched you and your shows for a very long time. And you obviously have a very savvy understanding of how to approach your interviews and how they're going to land. Why?
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Well,
I don't think I'm that savvy. Maybe I'm underselling myself.
I mean, why did you want to handle it the way that you did? You started with.
Well, I've explained this a million times, but I'll explain it very crisply.
No, you started,
No, I noticed that no one
talking
wants
about his background and where he grew up. It's a different kind of interview than the one when I look at Ambassador Huckabee.
I've known Huckabee for over 30 years. Huckabee's been a public figure for over 30 years.
But one was prosecutorial. You were building a case. The other one was friendly. I mean, you were wrestling quite vigorously with.
If I agreed with everything Fuentes said, I would just say so. Like, there's no.
Like, once again, he's obfuscating, running away from the question. Just come on.
The effort to kind of,
like, everybody who watched the interview with Huckabee and Cruz can tell that he was much more hostile to their positions than he was to Nick Fuentes. It's just obvious. It's just self-evident.
Find my motives. When I state my motives clearly, I think I'm telling the truth.
I know, but as you have acknowledged in this interview,
let me just state my motives.
You use questions sometimes as a form of.
If I could just state my motives,
attack.
And you can either believe me or not, and I've done this many times, but I'll do it once more, and say, I'd never heard of Fuentes. I first heard him because he was attacking me and my family, which enraged me. I did fall for the bait, and so then I thought, well, this guy seems like I keep hearing he's very influential. Let's have him on. Hear what he has to say. So I did that. And on the question of hating Jews because they're Jews, I'm opposed. Told him that to his face. Lots of people decided that I should have taken a different tone. Okay, do your own interview with Fuentes if you want. That's okay with me. But I guess what I've come to believe, I didn't feel it was a significant interview, especially on any level, except the extent it was used to try and make me into a Nazi, which, again, I'm not. I would admit it. But what I think is interesting is the kind of moral scheme that interview revealed, which not surprisingly is childish and kind of repulsive. And by moral scheme, I mean like what the people in charge, including in journalism, think is right and wrong. So I think anyone who calls for the murder of innocents or justifies them is the lowest possible person. There's nothing worse than that, than killing kids. And you take someone like Randy Fine or
Despicable.
Ted Cruz.
Representative from Florida.
Yeah, Mike
Senator
Huckabee.
in
Right.
Texas.
These are all, I don't know Fine, but I know the other two very well and have for many years. And both of them have just been like, no, we should go kill people and their kids. And they make excuses for that. Like, there's nothing worse than that. And yet, those are the only controversial part of those interviews from the perspective of others in journalism is that I was too mean. I was too tough. I was too tough on Mike Huckabee, who's a sitting U.S. ambassador, or Ted Cruz, who's a...
I don't think that was the concern.
Whatever. Okay, but the point is...
I think when you just compare them...
who do you think is more morally repulsive, Ted Cruz or
Who do
Nick
you
Fuentes?
think is more morally repulsive?
Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a sitting U.S. senator who has called for the killing of people who did nothing wrong, whole populations who advocated for this war. Nick Fuentes is like a kid. He's like 26 or 70. He has no power except his words. Here you have a public official.
Yeah, well, his words have power, though. That's the fucking problem. His words affect mainstream consciousness, national consciousness, opinions of the masses. The fuck are you talking about? People built entire movements off of words. He's just being woefully ignorant here.
Who we pay, who
Hitler
has
came to
actual
power
power, who's
because of
voting for
words.
things, who's making policy decisions. And those decisions would
Just like every other leader. This is stupid.
include, in fact, they are focused on the murder of people who did nothing wrong. And yet no one thinks it's a big deal. Well, this is totally fine. I mean, if there's tape of Nick Fuentes saying we should kill people because we hate their parents, or it's okay to kill children, I would love to see the tape, because that's disgusting. And that's basically what the entire U.S. Senate does every single day, and no one notices. Nick Fuentes said something naughty that I disagreed with. He made fun of things that I don't think, I would never make fun of them.
He's a white nationalist who's denied the Holocaust. And what I will say,
okay, but is that worse than killing kids?
From my understanding of my own, I was just in Germany recently, and it was such a good reminder that the Holocaust didn't start with the gassing of Jews. It started with the dehumanization of Jews. It was language that was used. And again, That is what it concerns
I couldn't
people.
agree more. And that's why when you have a U.S. senator, a member of Congress, a U.S. ambassador waving away civilian deaths as if they don't matter, that's the language of genocide, which results, and this is the lesson of the Holocaust, in genocide itself. And it has. So the lesson for me, really, watching all of this, is that this can happen in civilized countries. In all human beings, there is the capacity to ignore the evil right in front of you. And my point is, it's happening right now. And my job, to the extent I have one, I don't really have a job, but I just want to remind people that we're all capable of that, including me, and that we're watching it right now. And if you think that Nick Fuentes is a greater threat to other human beings than Ted Cruz, I would love to know how.
I can imagine people hearing this and thinking you are soft-pedaling Nick Fuentes. You are apologizing for Nick Fuentes.
I'm hardly soft-pedaling Nick Fuentes. I'm trying to awaken people to killing of innocents in our midst, which we are not only encouraged to...
I think that's just bad faith. I don't think he's soft-pedaling Nick Fuentes. He's sane-washing him or downplaying him a little bit. He's not soft-pedaling him, though.
Ignore, but really told to ignore on pain of being denounced. And I'm just saying, no, I'm not doing that. And Ted Cruz and Mike Huckabee are two of the main people making this moment possible, and President Trump. But Nick Fuentes is the problem? Okay. It's not a defense of Nick Fuentes. It's merely like a reality check for the rest of us. What are we doing?
We began this conversation by discussing your rupture with President Trump. And I'd like to ask about your relationship with the vice president, because you were one of the people credited with getting him into that role. You were close to him. You advocated for him. Are you still close to Vance, considering your rupture with the president?
I mean, I will always love J.D. Vance as a man. I think, and I'm making this judgment on the basis of his public statements over many years, I think he's in a tough spot. He's in a tough spot. I mean, he's on the record repeatedly saying this is exactly the thing that this administration would avoid doing, and now they've done it.
President Trump was also on the record saying similarly.
As I've said many times, exactly. And by the way, I wouldn't characterize it as a rupture with Trump. He betrayed his promises to me and everybody else, and I acknowledge that in public. So it doesn't make me the person who breached the contract. He's the one who breached the contract, to be clear. But it puts the vice president in a super difficult spot. And I know him well and think so much of him as a person. And it is my guess that, based on his past behavior, that he's doing everything he can to mitigate what he sees as the ill effects of this. And but it's kind of hard to call the shots when you're vice president, because that's not in the Constitution. So no, I would never. I put him in a bad situation just by my public. You know, he was attacked endlessly for my Nick Fuentes interview. Whoa, so scary. And okay, so I've always felt bad about that. He didn't do anything. You know what I mean? But I was used as a cudgel to beat him over the head, because the neocons hated him, because they thought that if he ever became president, he would be less compliant than the president turned out to be. So, you know, I don't want to add to that at all. I think he's a really good man. I know he's a good man because I know him very well. But, you know, I don't have anything else to say to anyone in the administration, because I can't affect
don't talk to him anymore?
Any outcome.
When was the last time you spoke to the vice president?
Oh, I don't know. But I don't want to add to his problems at all. But I would just say what's obvious is that I'm hardly an advisor to this administration. And I think it's also clear that Donald Trump makes these decisions.
You really don't know the last time you spoke to Vice President J.D. Vance? Weeks, months, days?
I don't know. I mean, I would never characterize that. I don't want to cause him more problems. I would just say I'm not advising. No one's seeking my counsel. I'm not trying to influence anything. I gave it my best shot. It didn't work.
Well, let me ask you this. Vance was not in favor of the war, but he ultimately didn't seem willing to die on the Hill. I mean, he could resign. He could, there's many things he could have done, I suppose.
Vance doesn't
Do
know
you wish
what
he'd
he
been more
believes.
forceful?
Vance is not a real person. Vance believes what he's told to believe. If you hear him speak, he has no center. He has no spine, no center. If you were to slice J.D. Vance open, a bunch of crickets would hop out. He is nothing. He is no one. He has no real beliefs, no sincere opinions, no center of gravity. At least Trump, I don't know if he believes anything, has a core ideology, but at least Trump has a center, a base. He believes in business and handshakes and glory and power and whatever, his ego. Even if these things are vain and hollow, at least he believes them. J.D. Vance, I mean, you hear him talk, it sounds like he's trying to appeal to right-wing Twitter. It sounds like he wants to be validated by Cat Turd and Captive Dreamer and Bronze Age Pervert. It sounds like that's who he's trying to appeal to when he gives a speech. Oh, wow, that's so base. That's my VP. Yeah, J.D. Vance, go get him. That's my vice president. It's like he's trying to be affirmed. He's trying to be validated. He wants to be liked by these people. Doesn't believe in anything. Give me a fucking break.
You know, I will just say, I'll just be totally blunt about what I'm doing.
Like I said, he just goes along with the crowd. Doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. You know, Nick Fuentes over Christmas, around December, was calling J.D. Vance's wife Pusha. And he was making fun of their cuisine and talking about how it's third world turd slop and all this kind of stuff. And he wouldn't come out and make a strong statement against Nick Fuentes because he's a coward who doesn't believe anything. This man is attacking your wife because she's a different race. I mean, what is a more low and aggressive form of vile, virulent aggression and disrespect than to attack your wife's race? The person you reproduced with, the person you have a family with, the person you are creating the next generation with. You won't even defend her? You won't defend anything then. If you won't defend your wife, you won't defend this country. It's just like, dude is a spineless coward. It's ridiculous. He doesn't, like I said, he doesn't believe in anything.
Taking a pass on your question and say that I know JD very, very well. And I think it's like super tough situation. He's in my prayers. I mean that. And I just don't want to add to what is clearly a really hard job.
I know that if you were in my position, you'd press.
Oh, go crazy. But I'm just saying, like, my only goal is I just want to be honest. And so I'm being, I think, as transparent as I possibly can be, or I'm being
transparent.
Of course, yeah, no problem at all.
And saying that my job is also to press you.
I get it.
So, however he has felt privately, publicly Vance has been a loyal soldier.
Yes.
Even going so far as to head the recent negotiations with the Iranians. And we've seen, and you've commented, how unpopular this war is among the American people. Do you think the role that he is playing right now will hurt his political prospects?
There are people in the White House who want to hurt J.D. Vance and have wanted that since the very first day. They were bitter. They wanted Marco Rubio to be the choice as vice president. And so JD has been subject to, this is well known, but I'll just confirm it.
Like, he won't even come out and criticize JD Vance because he can't. Even though JD Vance, just like Trump, betrayed his beliefs. So it's ridiculous.
Nonstop treachery.
You know, the good thing about Trump is I think Trump will take the Republican Party down with him and just destroy the whole thing. That's the good thing about Trump. He's that malignant.
From people on the neoconservative side.
Who are these people?
Around Marco Rubio.
Yeah, who are these people,
and
Tucker?
By the way, Marco Rubio's got to be one of the most charming people in the whole world. And, you know, it's impossible to dislike Marco Rubio.
Just ignoring the question.
And I'm not an intimate friend or anything. But, so I can't say to what extent he's involved in it. But certainly he's the choice of the donor class. The donor class is avowedly neoconservative. That's why they give money for outcomes like the ones we're watching. That's why this whole system is completely rotten and just impervious to reform. And they have been totally against J.D. Vance from the very beginning.
Who do you mean specifically? Because, I mean, it was interesting in those conversations with Susie Wiles, for example, where she was very much praising Marco Rubio and had less maybe complimentary things to say about J.D. Vance. I mean, is that to whom you're referring?
You know, I don't know is the real answer.
So you don't know. So then who is it? You don't know.
You're accusing people of treachery, so I'm wondering.
Well, I know there's been a lot of treachery for sure. And I know
he's just loose at the mouth. He has loose lips. He says things out of emotion or hysteria or some kind of conspiracy. I don't know how he arrives at these opinions, but then he just says them as if they're fact. And then when pressed on, he's like, well, I don't know. It could be. Why are you saying there's people in the admin working against J.D. Vance and you can't tell us who they are? This is why he's not a reliable source of information. He just lies and says things without evidence.
They were so mad
repeatedly
about JD getting that job. I mean,
who's they?
Thank you. Yes, who is they?
Well, Miriam Adelson, for example.
She's not in the White House.
Rupert Murdoch,
also not in the White House.
People who were very much vested in using Trump for what we're seeing now.
But within the White House?
Yes, in the White House. Who?
I don't know the answer to that. I've never worked there. So like if you don't work there, you can say you can say what you think you know, but it's hard to
so he just totally doesn't even know. Once again.
Really know.
This is me looking skeptical.
Yeah, well no, but it's me being honest. Like I don't really know. And you read all these things about
so then why did
Susie,
you say it?
is of course a product
So
of Florida.
there is this big conspiracy to destroy Vance and throw him under the bus, and all these people in the admin are supporting Rubio, and they secretly hate JD Vance. And when asked who, oh, well, I don't know. Just to be honest, I don't even know who it is. So why are you telling us that this is what's happening if you don't know what is actually happening? It's insanity. It's just pure insanity.
There's a whole Florida group and the consultants and Marco and all the rest, and people whisper about that. Is that true? I really don't know. I've never heard her say anything against JD. She seems to love JD, but who knows, man? Who knows? But I know, I definitely know that, like, outside, I mean, it's hard to believe that Mark Levin and Laura Loomer, who are, like, have no constituency whatsoever and would have influence in the White House, but they do, and both of them have been out for Vance.
I mean, he is just a pure bullshit artist. He's just gish galloping, saying nothing. He was about to say, well, I do know, and then he's like, well, Laura Loomer and Mark Levin have absolutely no constituent. We're not even talking about them. We want to know the answer to a simple question. What is this plot against JD Vance, and who is behind it? Answer that question. He won't. He can't. He doesn't know.
One, big time.
Do you think it's hurting, though, his political prospects, to repeat the question, that he has been put in the position, according to you, that he is fronting these negotiations in Iran?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think this whole thing, it's not even JD specific. This whole thing is like dooming anyone connected to it for the foreseeable future, including the entire Republican Party. And, if you're psyched for President Gavin Newsom, I guess that's a good thing. I'm not. So I think it's a disaster. It's a true disaster. And again, I told Trump this like 10 times. Like, this is going to blow up your legacy. All this gold you put in here, like, they're going to take it down and mock you as they do. Like, this is going to blow up you're concerned about your legacy. You're 80 in June. Like, I get it. But this is not the way. And I think that's proven true.
So you think this will doom JD Vance as well?
I don't know, doom. I mean, I'm obviously not good at calling the future, but I couldn't be more, I couldn't be a bigger fan of him as a man, but I think anybody connected to this is going to have a hard time explaining it, because how is this good for the United States? It's not.
One more question on this particular issue. It was just published that your son, who worked for the VP, left that job. Did your rift with Trump have anything to do with that and make it hard for him?
Zero. He was not forced out of the role at all. And my understanding of it is, let me just say, in a normal world, in a decent world, my son or my son's job would have no relevance at all to me.
Why did your son leave then? If he wasn't forced out?
I don't know. You can ask him. But he was there over a year. Like, I don't know. White House is an intense place to work. I don't want to talk about my son. He's got nothing to do with this.
No, I mean...
No, but that's kind of the point. Like, we need to defend the core beliefs of our civilization, which, by the way, are attractive to the...
It's like he's like an algorithm. He's like an algorithm. Like he's like an automatic talking points machine. Like, she was like, oh, let's move away from the question then. Well, no, and let me give you this stump speech about blood guilt. Let me give you this stump speech about our civilization and all these... He's like a robot. Let me give you this stump speech now. It's just tedious.
The entire world. People move here not just for our robust economy, but because they want to be judged on the basis of what they did, not on what their parents did.
But Tucker, you don't even believe this. You don't even defend this principle. Because you scaremonger about non-white immigration and the Great Replacement theory and how everybody's going to kill white men. I mean, he has said this. He's speculated about the white genocide on his show. As if, like, there is this effort by non-whites to just go after and kill innocent white people because of their, I don't know, racial animus or something. Well, that's not very in line with the principle of, or the belief rather, that people act in this manner. You're assuming that people will behave that way because you don't believe that people believe this. He's preempting it. It's just nonsense.
That's the whole point. That's collective punishment. It's blood guilt, and we reject it. I gave this lecture to Nick Fuentes.
Yeah,
I gave
you
this lecture.
say that, but then you constantly tell us that we can't actually believe that or uphold that principle because we as whites are under attack. Like, you play into the people who disagree with your opinion. You understand this, right? You appeal to that group. You pander to that group.
To Mike Huckabee, the lecture never changes because the idea is the core idea of our civilization.
Since you mentioned Nick Fuentes, I have one last question. You opened the door.
The core idea of our civilization that you constantly disregard and subvert, sure.
I know.
Fuentes.
He is not a J.D. Vance fan. He's called him a race traitor because of his marriage to Osha.
I don't care. He's like
who is Indian American. Wait, let me finish the question. I mean, given how influential Fuentes is right now.
Is he?
Yeah, he is. Yes, actually, yes. You did an interview with him because he is influential. What the fuck are you talking about? It's just like this fake disingenuousness is just cancer.
Is he not?
I don't know. Doesn't seem to be.
You do know he's influential. You do know he's He's just lying right now. I don't know if he's influential. Yes, you do, Tucker.
In a war with Iran. Like, who cares, actually? That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, all of this is like a sideshow. Americans are being killed in a foreign country at the behest of another foreign country, and it's going to wreck the US dollar and cause hyperinflation in our country. And we're like fretting about what some kid on the internet said. It's like, who cares, actually? This is a way of taking us away from the core issues, which are economic. They're economic. And that is the one thing that nobody ever wants to talk about. How is the money distributed? Where does the money come from? No one wants to, that's why, like, the only left-wing movement I ever had a lot of sympathy for was the one that arose after the global financial crisis. Occupy Wall Street. I didn't know exactly what they were about, but I was like, yeah, we should be mad at the banks because, like, they did this and no one got punished. And within like 20 minutes, we're talking about black people and white people. It was like,
I'm happy to talk about economics, but your interview with Fuentes has 25 million views. But to say that it doesn't matter isn't, and
it matters in what sense? Like, does it matter more than?
But can I finish my question?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Given how influential he is, and I just don't think that there's any argument about that.
He is influential. He's absolutely influential in the right-wing media. It's just, why is this even a debate? It's not a debate. If we're looking at pure numbers, this is not a debate. 1 million followers on Twitter, 7.3 million views on the interview that he did with him in October. It's just, this is an uncontestable claim.
Influential in what way?
I'm wondering
in terms of commentary, in terms of ideology, in terms of taste making, and in terms of manufacturing people's opinions or manipulating or changing or affecting people's opinions, he's influential as a thought leader. It's just him being willfully ignorant.
How you think J.D. Vance could become the leader of the party after Trump if you have someone like
J.D. Vance has no aura, no charisma.
Fuentes speaking so critically of him.
So I'm so glad you asked that question because its premise reveals everything.
All right, tell me.
So the premise of your question is that J.D. Vance can't.
No, I'm not saying that he can't.
It's going to be difficult for J.D. Vance to advance politically because
I'm asking, do you think?
Just the premise that it could be that J.D. Vance's interracial marriage is a bigger problem than his foreign policy views.
No, I didn't say.
Obviously, there are people who think that this is the case.
Say that?
It doesn't.
No, I'm saying that there is a person who is incredibly influential in the party.
Is he incredibly influential?
Yes.
Like on what basis are you saying that?
Oh my goodness, there's lots of
like he's just being like, this is what people do. Like he's just gonna like, because he doesn't want to engage with the question, he's just gonna like challenge the merit of the question itself and challenge the definition of the words. It's just like when people do this, this is tactical. This isn't even tactical nihilism or willful ignorance. This is just like tactical dishonesty, tactical disingenuousness.
But it's not only in the reach of what he talks about, but also.
Can you name a single member of Congress who's acknowledged his existence or said, I did this because he told me to?
That's a groyper? I don't know that there's
there's not a single member of Congress who would ever stand up and say, or even show evidence of being influenced by Nick Fuentes, where they're out of 500.
This is stupid. Paul Gosar showed up at AFPAC, I think in 2021, gave a speech. He was a sitting member of Congress in Arizona at that time. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Joe Kent, all these people have associated with Fuentes in the past, and there's probably many more. So this is nonsense.
135, there are about 500 who were taking money from AIPAC.
I have already asked about the war's impact on Vance. This is a question about the future of the party, and the future of any party are its young people. And in the same way that Turning Point USA has influence on young conservatives, so does Nick Fuentes. And so,
I guess I don't know how we're measuring that, but
what I'm trying, all I'm trying to ask you here is if you but listen, there is
what I'm trying to
a strain in the Republican Party, especially among young people, who.
Why is he groaning so much about the question? Like, this question is not do or die. Why is this question so hard for him to grapple with? He's like groaning. What the hell?
Are racist, who talk about J.D. Vance and his marriage in a particular way. And I'm asking you, and you can decide not to answer it, but I'm simply asking you.
I'm trying to answer it.
If you think that is going to be a problem for J.D. Vance leading the party. Because
let me answer your question.
Thank you.
You were unable to tell me how Fuentes was influential in any way other than the views on a video, which are probably lower than those on your average porn video. So that's like not a good measurement. It's not meaningful. Does he have influence on our politics? I haven't seen any. So let's just start there. Second, J.D. Vance's problems with young people and old people and the party itself revolve around his views on foreign policy and economics, which are the issues that actually matter. Third, race is thrown up as a distraction so often, as in this case, to distract from what actually matters, because on questions of economic, let me just finish, on questions of economic, if I can finish, on the Fuentes himself is a distraction from the conversations that matter, because power is displayed through the structure of the economic system globally.
Fuentes himself is a distraction, but you interviewed him and published the interview, and it got 7 million views. So you obviously thought it was important enough to interview him. And the idea that race and immigration and any of these things are a distraction betrays what Trump ran on in 2016. Immigration was at the forefront of his campaign. MAGA, Make America Great Again. I mean, the underlying message there is that America was better at one point when there was less non-whites in the country and white people had their heyday, so let's make it great again. I mean, people, this was the assumption of that message back in 2016 when people heard MAGA. Make America Great Again. As if it's not great now because there's more diversity. You get the point. I mean, race, whether explicitly or implicitly, was a part of his messaging. Whether it was tied to immigration or the pre-existing demographic changes or the pre-existing demographics. The idea that race is just a distraction for conservative politics is ridiculous. Charlie Kirk was attacking the legacy of Martin Luther King, attacking the Civil Rights Act before he died, attacking DEI. Race is a part of it. It's a little bit more veiled than it is in places like South Africa where race is explicit, but we are rapidly approaching that direction where race is going to become an explicit part of political conversation, of national politics. And Tucker Carlson has been peddling this. He has made this he has been race baiting a lot in the past year or two. It's become a prominent part of his media output. Same with Fuentes, same with all these guys. The race and IQ stuff, the immigration and into the UK and all of it. The death of Western civilization, immigrants invading. It's all, the undertones for all of it is racial, obviously. These are all racial arguments. The undertones are racial. Nobody talks about Polish people or whatever other group invading this country when they immigrate. It's only an invasion when it's non-whites. Then it's an invasion. Then it's the West is dying. Everybody sees right through this. Just give me a fucking break. Race is not a part of, is a distraction. This was a mobilizing message. I mean, Tucker Carlson even said this in an interview. White people felt under attack, which is why they voted for Trump. He said this. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I can pull up the clip. I forgot when and where he said it. He said it in some interview. I forget with who, but he said something about white people felt, oh, I remember. It was in that one interview with that lady from the Middle East. Fuck, what was that? Yeah, but Tucker Carlson said white people felt under attack, which is a huge part of the reason why they voted for Trump. He knows that race is a part of it. The idea that we're just going to pretend as if, oh, race is just this big distraction, immigration, ethnicity, religion, it's this big distraction. I mean, people have been fear-mongering about, even Tucker has been fear-mongering about Muslims taking over the UK. Muslim invasion of the West. Charlie Kirk did the same thing. I mean, people eat this shit up. Eat it up. Race is it's just a distraction. Then he doesn't treat it that way. Like, once again, just the lying here is incredible.
And per country.
That's why you can never take what these fucking people say at face value, ever.
And in the use of force. So it's the economic program and the foreign policy program are what matters in every government from the beginning of time.
I mean, ethnicity and culture is also pretty important in most historical states, but okay.
The two questions on which there's a bipartisan consensus in Washington between Republicans and Democrats that we should do this thing. The public rejects that thing on both categories. They reject the economics that are a consensus choice in Washington, and they reject the foreign policy that's a consensus choice in Washington. And so Washington's response, Wall Street's response as well, is to be like, let's have a race war. And you guys can like argue over blacks or whites or whether JD is married to an Indian woman. Like, what? And so Fuentes is incredibly useful for people with actual power to divert the conversation to something that is both irrelevant and divisive, because it's a divide and conquer strategy. And my strong view—
As a matter of fact, let's just do this so I can prove a point, because I really want to drive this point home. We're going to go through all the videos that Tucker Carlson has posted in the last, say, year, where each one is talking about race or immigration. And we'll see how many videos he's posted about it. So let's just go through. Ever since the Iran war started, this is all he's been talking about. But prior to that, it was a lot of stuff about race and immigration. Let's see. Got to go back to before the Iran war started. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Illegal mass migration. 500,000 views. What are these violent ICE protests really about? 700,000 views. Peter Brimelow on the invasion of America. Who's behind it? 459,000 views. That's already 3 videos. Eva Vladimir, This Dutch woman, 777,000 views. By the way, this Eva Vlardingerbroek, this blonde lady right here from the Netherlands, she's a white nationalist and she's a remigration advocate. So that's already 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive videos about race and immigration. And it goes on like this. I mean, there's more. There's this one with Rupert Lowe, the guy who's the leader of the Restore Britain party. That's 5. There's this one with Piers Morgan where he talks about the same thing, the replacement of white people in the UK. That's 6. That's 6 videos. See if we can find more. I'm sure there's more. Let's see. Civil war incoming, ICE protests, Antifa riots. And by the way, I made a video about this exact monologue from Tucker Carlson. And in the opening monologue, before he got to the interview part, he literally said, I mean, I watch this guy every day or every week. In the opening monologue, he said that diversity, racial, can be too much to tolerate. I mean, what are you talking about? That's 7 videos now. There's probably more in here. Let's see. Here we go. Christopher Caldwell, how immigration is erasing whites. I mean, it's in the title. That's 8. There's probably more. Anyways, you guys get the point. I mean, that's 8 videos. You know, several hours worth of content where Tucker Carlson is talking about immigration and race and the erasure of whites in the West. And he plays with these themes, but then he wants to turn around and say, oh, well, it's all just a distraction. I mean, what are you it is a mobilizing political cause. Like, this guy is just such a fucking liar. Oh my God. Just disingenuous. And I don't think he believes in anything. I think Tucker Carlson's politics can really just be boiled down to reactionary white grievance politics. I mean, that's what his politics are. Reactionary white grievance politics. And all of these things, there's different factions or ideologies that all kind of fall under the umbrella of white grievance politics. Christian nationalism, ethno-nationalism or white nationalism, white separatism, immigration restrictionism, whatever, all these different ideologies. And there's overlap between them. Fascism, neo-Nazism, whatever, all these different ideologies kind of overlap in certain ways, and then they depart in certain ways. But it's all just they're all just different flavors or different expressions of white grievance politics. That's what Tucker is. He doesn't have any core. He doesn't have any base. He just plays footsies with all these different ideologies. He plays footsies with all these different, factions of the white grievance politics coalition, while never committing himself to any particular branch of it or any particular ideology. And he does it to get as many views as possible. That's all he does. He is a vessel. He is a vessel or an advocate or a vehicle for white identity politics and white grievance politics. But then the irony of it is he turns around and he calls it evil. I mean, this guy is a walking fucking contradiction, a pathological liar, a walking contradiction, a disingenuous piece of shit. Fuck this guy, honestly. Fuck him. I just can't stand how much he lies about literally everything. Christ.
You gained over 35 years of watching carefully and being involved is that's come to its end.
Okay.
It's come to its end. You've made several videos talking about this. 8 interviews and counting. And you've done multiple interviews. You've done monologues about it, interviews on your channel, interviews on other people's channel with Sean Ryan. I mean, there's plenty of others where you constantly play into white grievance narratives and white identity politics.
JD's real problems are his foreign policy views, the ones he's articulated for 10 years, are in direct opposition to the foreign policy views of the people who fund the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. Same people. And they have the same views.
It's the idea of the uniparty.
It's just like you can't talk about white identity politics and white grievance politics being wrong and evil and then basically regurgitate all of their talking points. It's just so unserious.
On these questions, it's totally true. We can argue about the trans thing. You can have legitimate views on race, legitimate views on trans. Those are real issues. I'm not saying they're not. But those are not the issues on which empires rise and fall.
I don't know what does that even mean, legitimate views on race? What does that even mean? That's a nothing statement.
The real issues are
It means you can have like an endless list of grievances that you never stop talking about and never come up with a solution for.
And foreign policy, and on those issues,
endlessly scapegoat based on race.
There's a bipartisan consensus, and so they throw up like, no, we're disagreeing on trans, we're disagreeing on affirmative action or whatever, but they agree on all that matters. And JD disagrees, as Trump did, at least in his public statements. So this is the wrong foreign policy course. This economic system is hurting young people, and so Fuentes shows up, and everyone wants to talk about Fuentes because it's really safe. No one wants to talk about, why are capital gains taxes half those of taxes on regular income? Like, I think that's like a critical debate. You will never have that debate. Have you ever asked a question about that? No one ever asked that. And I think that's like, nothing's more important domestically than that, but whatever. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I wish I hadn't done the Fuentes interview because...
Really?
Yeah, it was totally not worth it. I mean, it was like kind of interesting, I guess, but it was used as... I added to the distraction. What I really wanted to talk about was where we were going in this war with Iran. And I spent like a month getting calls from people being like, you're a Nazi. Okay. And I wish I hadn't done that. Not that it didn't imperil my soul. I've interviewed far worse people than Nick Fuentes, like Mike Huckabee. Far worse person than Nick Fuentes, hurt many more people than Nick Fuentes. Same with Ted Cruz. But so I don't think it affected me. I interview people I disagree with all the time. And often I'm polite to them, including war criminals. The only person I've really been impolite with is Ted Cruz because I have limited self-control and he's just so repulsive I couldn't control myself. And I was a jerk and I tried to apologize. But if you had to sit across from Ted Cruz, it's just, there's something about him. It's just like repulsive. I mean, it's like disgusting. Like if you entered a men's room and Ted Cruz was there, you would be like, I can hold it. I'm leaving. And I broke down under the strain of his repulsiveness. But in general, I try to be nice to everybody. But man, that Fuentes interview.
I don't know. I mean, I agree, but who's more repulsive than this slimy chameleon son of a, let me not say it. You know what I was going to say. But this motherfucker calling anybody else repulsive is just deeply unserious.
I just added to the distraction.
I think we're done for now. We're going to speak again.
We're going to speak again?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No.
Oh, you thought this was one and done? Oh, my man. No. On the interview, we speak to our guest twice. So a few days later, I followed up with Tucker Carlson. We talked about his views on immigration, his disdain for both parties, and whether he thinks his rupture with President Trump is permanent. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. All right, you're a little loud in my ear. Let me turn you down.
I'm a little loud in many people's ears.
But thank you for taking time to talk to me again. I definitely wanted to circle back on something because we ended up our last conversation talking about Vice President Vance.
I don't know if I want to watch the second part of this.
But I also wanted to ask you about somebody else that you were close to, and that's Don Jr., the president's son.
Okay, I don't care about Don Jr.
Changed in another part of the world is itself unpopular, whether it's,
he's look, one of the reasons that I appreciated Trump from day one, in addition to always enjoying his company and finding him hilarious, is because he was very good at assailing the foundations of war with Iran and say, we're interested in importing new non-citizens, making them citizens and making reliable voters out of them. And the Republican Party is much more interested in, fighting.
Just say non-whites. It's just, we know what you mean.
So anybody who's for diluting our labor pool with foreign labor.
Just say non-whites. It's just like, we know what you mean. These buzzwords. You just got to create plausible deniability.
I did not say that in 2018.
Oh, no, 2008. I'm so sorry. Yeah, 2008.
Oh, okay.
So 2008.
Right, yeah.
What
So
did
the
he
point
not
is,
say?
Monkeys. I mean, you
debate the past 5 years have gone to immigrants, not Americans. So
but wait,
it's not
let me
really
finish.
a debate, actually.
But you called Iraqis semi-literate, primitive monkeys. I mean, you've used language that many
What
find.
year did I say that? Do you know?
I think it was in 2018.
I did not say that in 2018.
Oh, no, 2008. I'm so sorry. Yeah, 2008.
okay.
So 2008.
Right, yeah.
Pretty big fuck up.
Yeah.
So the point is I'm a racist? Is that
No,
what you're
no.
saying?
The point is, were you
What
part
is
of
the
the
point?
distraction? The question is, were you part of the distraction? Because you
sure.
were...
He's still a part of the distraction. Does she not know anything about what the fuck Tucker Carlson has been saying, even in the past 9 months? Is she just like, how do people just memory hole everything that this guy has said? It's crazy. People just memory hole shit. It's so insane. I mean, there is a long track record of shit that he has said, and then he's going to turn around and just pretend like it never happened. It's just crazy. It's just nuts.
Those, talking about those issues quite a lot.
He still does. He still talks about them all the time.
Actually talking about those issues quite a lot.
Even in videos where he's not explicitly talking about ICE, immigration, race, the erasure of whites, great replacement, he still mentions it in passing. But he still drops comments about anti-white. I mean, even in that video with that got 3.5 million views with Professor Zhang at the end, he talks about the most evil, heinous thing on earth that's ever happened is this intentional plot to replace whites. Which is just bullshit. It's just obvious bullshit. Nobody immigrates here to replace whites. We want to replace whites. Even people who run the country in the Democratic Party are not. We want to replace whites. We want to get rid of all white people. It's just stupid. It's just fake. It's just totally fake hysteria. I don't know what to say other than that. It's just nonsense.
I would say I have been involved in many distractions, including that. I'm not saying race is immaterial. Race is important. Race is real. It's not a social construct. It's a biological reality. There are racial differences, real racial differences.
I mean, people say this, but then they never substantiate it. Once again, this has been watered down to nothing more than a talking point. Oh, race is real. Well, yeah, I mean, there's biological differences between people who are categorized using this social construct of race, but there is no discrete genetic differences or lines of demarcation between black people and white people. There's just not. We possess all the same genes. They just express themselves differently. There's different, what are they called? I forget the name of them. Base pairs. There's different adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine at these different single nucleotide polymorphisms that produce phenotypical differences, but everybody possesses the same genes for skin complexion, craniofacial structure, nose shape, hair texture, all these things. I mean, we have genes for all these things. They just express themselves differently based on the alleles. That's the word I was looking for. The alleles at these genes and the combination of alleles. But there's two different models for race, the dendritic model and the clinal model. The dendritic model says man emerges from one tree, but there's different distinct branches. And the different distinct branches have different distinct leaves. So the branches are the distinct races and the leaves are the ethnic groups within those races. But this model has been debunked because of gene flow. Genes flow in between different populations, different parts of the map. There are certain allele frequencies that are more popular or more prominent in Northern Europe that are different in Southern Europe. The idea that like 300, 400 years ago, we would have considered Calabrians or Sicilians to be a part of the same race as Norwegian people or Scandinavian people is just a joke. We would have never considered these people to be the same race, because race is not a scientific term. Yes, there is biological underpinnings to race, but it is reductive, extremely reductive, and that's the problem with the term. It ignores the complexities of genetics, and people categorize themselves into these social terms like race that miss the nuances of genetics and how they actually function, and leads to more misunderstanding and manufactured problems. So people say, oh, race is real. Well, there is something real to the notion of race regarding genetics, but race is real also ignores how fraught the term is with misunderstandings. So it's real, but it's also not real at the same time in the way people understand it.
They're much smaller than gender differences, but they're still real. But my point was the one that I made in it.
Like, for example, lactose tolerance in Sweden, Norway, Finland, even in Western Europe and the UK, lactose tolerance, like 95% of the population has a specific genotype that produces, or the specific combination of alleles, a certain gene expression. I don't know exactly what the terms are, but you get what I'm saying, where 95 to 98% of these populations have lactose tolerance. You move all the way to Italy and Southern Europe, and it goes down to like 45 to 50% of the population, where less than half the people there have the gene that allows for lactose tolerance, but they're all considered the same race, despite having different craniofacial structures, different genotypes, different musculature, different average height, different, bone structure. I mean, whatever. But they're all considered the same race because they share similar skin complexion and a kind of European, as we understand it, European phenotype, broadly speaking. But anyways, it's just this conversation gets into like, it's just so semantic that it's hard to have a productive conversation about this. But anyways, I don't even know why I addressed that. It's just, I saw that. I just heard that and I felt like I needed to say something.
Initially, which is for most Americans, people who are born here, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, doesn't matter, of any race, the real concerns are economic. And I do think that certain forces, the banks, people loaning the money, have a real incentive to foment dissent within the population against each other. Fight amongst yourselves while we continue to charge you 25% interest on your credit card. And as I said, when we first discussed this, I noticed this after Occupy Wall Street, which was like the very first left-wing movement that I thought, I kind of like the theme here. I mean, I wasn't, whatever. I'm not camping out on the sidewalk in front of JP Morgan, but the idea that you could have a global financial crisis and no one responsible for it goes to jail, and the only people who suffer are the people who took the loans, not the ones who issued the loans, I felt like that's just not fair. And so I supported the idea of holding the creditors accountable for their crimes, and none ever were held accountable. It was no longer the majority after 2015. That was not even noted in most publications. And like, that's a tragedy. And no one even said anything about it. And instead, it was just like, white people hate black people hate white people. We got played. That's my view.
Wait, what did he say?
I did ever more. basically ever less middle class. The middle class was no longer the majority after 2015. That was not even noted in most publications.
Oh, middle class, okay.
The future that I imagine is not a future in which we're yelling at each other about race. It's a future in which people are legitimately revolutionary, maybe even violent, on the basis of thwarted economic opportunity. And it made me wonder, do you believe capitalism is an evil system, a necessary evil, something else? And also, what do you mean about legitimately revolutionary?
Well, I certainly didn't mean to endorse violence. I can't imagine I would never say that intentionally. I'm amazed that you have a tape of me saying that, and I just want to disavow it. I'm not for violence, period.
Okay.
It's just crazy. Like, how many times you have to disavow something you said in the past, or rephrase, or how are people so loose like this?
It's against my religion, and so I just want to be very, very clear that I'm totally opposed to violence. What I mean is the current system, and I don't know what you would call our economic system. And I'm often told it's free market capitalism. It doesn't bear any resemblance to what I thought free market capitalism was. I'm not sure the name is
Parasitic
important,
capitalism.
except as a way to mislead and bully people into being quiet about it. But any economic system in which, the overwhelming majority of the rewards go to an ever shrinking number of people or proportion of people is a doomed system because it makes people revolutionary. I saw this in Venezuela, which I visited as a child. It was a prosperous kind of first world country, beautiful country, actually.
Time together, I feel like I've
and laughed about it. And a guy who said the Iraq War was a mistake, done something wrong, that's enough usually.
Okay, we kind of get the point here. I mean, we've had enough of our, dose of Tucker Carlson for the day. What a just dishonest, disingenuous, lying scumbag. Just lies so effortlessly. It's truly incredible. It's truly incredible. Anyways, yeah. Christ.